Harry Potter and the Forgotten Prophecy that made him the bridge between wizards and muggles. Chapter 1, The Resonance Disturbance. Harry Potter jolted awake at 3:47 a.m., his wand already in his hand before his eyes fully opened. The Silver Lynx Patronus stood at the foot of his bed, speaking with Kingsley Shacklebolt's deep voice. Emergency in Manchester. Unexplained magical signature affecting Muggle power grid. Orders needed immediately. The Patronus dissolved into wisps of silver light as Harry swung his legs off the bed. Ginny stirred beside him. Work, she mumbled, her voice thick with sleep. Yeah. Something in Manchester. Harry planted a quick kiss on her forehead. Go back to sleep. I'll try not to wake the kids when I get back. 10 minutes later, Harry stood in the Auror Department's deployment room, pulling on his field robes while Ron wolfed down a hastily conjured sandwich beside him. Any details? Harry asked Auror Williamson, who was coordinating the response. Muggles reporting widespread power outages and electronic malfunctions across Manchester, Williamson said, tapping a map with his wand. Red dots appeared across the city center. But it gets weirder. Their scientific instruments are picking up energy signatures they can't identify. Ron swallowed a massive bite. So magic's messing with their electricity. Happens all the time. Not like this, Williamson shook his head. This is systematic, almost like a pattern. And the Muggle scientists, they're not just confused, they're intrigued. Some physicist is all over their news channels talking about quantum anomalies and breakthrough energy patterns. Harry's interest sharpened. You're saying a Muggle scientist is detecting magic? Specifically? Not in those words, but effectively, yes. Harry exchanged glances with Ron. This was unusual. Obliviation team's already there? Ron asked. That's the other problem, Williamson grimaced. The minister wants this handled, carefully. The physicist is Dr. Eleanor Foster. She's extremely prominent, Nobel Prize winner, advisor to the Prime Minister. Shacklebolt says a mass obliviation would create more problems than it solves. Harry nodded. So we identify the source and shut it down without being detected. Exactly. You two take point. Find what's causing this and neutralize it. Teams of obliviators and magical maintenance specialists are already working on damage control. Harry and Ron operate to the designated arrival point, an abandoned warehouse near Manchester city centre. The moment they appeared, Harry felt it, a strange vibration in his magical core, like standing too close to a massive tuning fork. You feel that? Harry asked, rolling his shoulders uncomfortably. Ron nodded. Like magical static. Never felt anything quite like it. They stepped outside. The city was partially dark, streetlights out in patches, but emergency vehicles with flashing lights crowded several intersections. Harry tapped his glasses with his wand, activating the magical detection enchantments Hermione had developed for the Auror office. The world transformed before his eyes. Flowing currents of magical energy became visible, but instead of the usual ambient magic that hovered around wizarding locations, these currents pulsed in concentric circles, all emanating from somewhere to the east. This way, Harry said, setting off at a brisk walk. Whatever it is, it's powerful. They navigated through side streets, avoiding clusters of confused muggles. As they got closer to the source, Harry's wand began to vibrate in his pocket. My wand's acting up, Ron muttered, pulling out his own trembling wand. Mine too. Harry frowned. I've never seen magic affect wands like this before. They rounded a corner and stopped short. Before them stood a modern glass and steel building with Manchester Institute of Advanced Physics emblazoned across the entrance. Unlike the surrounding blocks, this building blazed with light, and according to Harry's enhanced vision, it was the epicenter of the magical disturbance. Of course it's a bunch of science blokes, Ron sighed. Just once I'd like an easy night call. Inside the institute, chaos reigned. Scientists rushed between laboratories, clutching printouts and shouting to each other over the blaring of alarms. What struck Harry immediately was that nobody seemed panicked, they all looked excited. Using disillusionment charms, Harry and Ron slipped past security and followed the flow of activity to a large central laboratory. There, surrounded by whirring machines and glowing screens, stood a woman in her early 40s with tight gray-streaked curls and intense focus in her dark eyes. "The resonance frequency is holding," she called out, staring at a central machine emitting a pulsing blue light. "Whatever this energy field is, it's not collapsing under observation. This contradicts everything we understand about quantum mechanics." Harry whispered to Ron, "That must be Dr. Foster." "The magic is strongest around that machine," Ron pointed. "Think that's causing it?" Harry studied the scene. "No, look at their reactions. They're measuring something, not creating it. The source is somewhere else." They moved carefully around the laboratory's perimeter. Harry noticed a strange diagram on a whiteboard, circles and lines that looked remarkably like ancient magical symbols he'd seen in Hermione's research. "Ron," he whispered. "Those equations. They look like runic arrays." "Bloody hell, you're right. How are Muggles working with runes?" Before Harry could answer, the main doors burst open. 4 figures in ministry robes strode in, not Aurors, but officials from the Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes, led by Percy Weasley. The scientists froze in confusion at the strange visitors. "What is the meaning of this?" "Dar," Foster demanded, stepping forward. "This is a restricted research facility." Percy pulled out an official-looking Muggle document. "Dr. Foster, I'm Percy Weasley from the Office of Special Scientific Oversight. We've been monitoring your energy experiments and have reason to believe they pose a significant public safety risk." Harry cursed under his breath. Why is Percy running interference instead of obliviators? "We need to clear this facility immediately," Percy continued. "Your experiments have caused power outages across Manchester." Dr. Foster's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Our work isn't connected to the power grid in any way that could cause outages. And I've never heard of your office. Who do you really work for?" Percy's hand twitched toward his wand. Harry recognized the motion. They were about to memory charm everyone in the room. "We can't let them do that," Harry whispered. "Not until we understand what's happening here." Just as Percy began to raise his wand, Harry cancelled his disillusionment charm and stepped forward. "Percy, wait." The room froze. Percy's eyes widened in shock. "Harry? What are you? You're compromising our operation." "Your operation is premature," Harry said firmly. "We don't even know what's causing the disturbance yet." Dr. Foster's gaze darted between them. "You know each other. Who are you people, really?" The magical vibration suddenly intensified. Equipment began sparking, and screens flickered wildly. A loud crack echoed through the lab as one of the machines split down the middle. "Everyone down!" Harry shouted, casting a shield charm that covered most of the civilians as several more machines exploded in bursts of magical energy. In the chaos, Harry felt a strange pull, almost like the sensation of a port key, but gentler, urging rather than forcing. His instincts told him to follow it. "Ron, handle this. I need to check something," he called. Harry slipped out a side door and down a corridor, following the magical current. It led him to a small storage room filled with dusty equipment. The pull was strongest here, centered on something behind a stack of boxes. Moving them aside, Harry discovered a small, unremarkable stone tablet no larger than his hand. Ancient symbols were carved into its surface, symbols he recognized from his Auror training as pre-Roman British magical script. The tablet pulsed with blue light in time with the magical disturbances. As Harry reached for it, the door burst open. Dr. Foster stood there, her face a mixture of determination and astonishment. "Don't touch that," she exclaimed. "We don't know what kind of energy it's emitting." Harry froze, hand outstretched. Dr. Foster, I need you to trust me. This object is dangerous. Trust you, she scoffed. A man who appeared out of nowhere in my lab. Who are you? My name is Harry Potter, and I'm trying to stop this before someone gets hurt. The tablet's pulsing increased, and the entire building shuddered. That's the source of your readings, Harry said quickly. Not something you created. This artifact is generating the energy patterns you've been measuring. It's a type of radiation your instruments weren't designed to detect until now. Dr. Foster's scientific curiosity visibly warred with her suspicion. What kind of radiation? Before Harry could answer, 3 figures in black robes burst into the room, faces concealed behind silver masks unlike any Death Eater mask Harry had seen before. The tablet. Get it, one of them shouted. Harry shoved Dr. Foster behind him and drew his wand. Protego. A shield materialized just as blasts of red light shot toward them. The spells ricocheted off Harry's shield, smashing into the walls. What the hell is happening? Dr. Foster shouted. Harry didn't have time to explain. He fired back, stupefy. Incarcerus. One attacker dropped, bound in ropes, but the other 2 pressed forward. The confined space made dueling difficult. A spell grazed Harry's shoulder, sending burning pain down his arm. Confringo, one attacker shouted, aiming not at Harry but at the ceiling above him. Harry grabbed Dr. Foster and dove aside as debris crashed down. Through the dust, he saw one of the attackers snatch the tablet. No. Harry lunged forward, but the second attacker blocked his path. The pure order rises, Potter, the masked figure taunted, before both attackers disappeared with loud cracks. The magical disturbance immediately began to subside. The building stopped shaking, and the strange vibration in Harry's core faded. Dr. Foster stared at the empty space where the attackers had disappeared. They vanished. And those lights from the sticks you were all holding. Her scientific mind was visibly processing, theorizing. This isn't government technology, is it? Harry made a quick decision. The statute of secrecy had already been compromised, and Dr. Foster had seen too much for a simple memory charm to cover everything. Dr. Foster, what I'm about to tell you is going to sound impossible, but after what you've just witnessed, I hope you'll keep an open mind. Before he could continue, Ron and Percy burst into the room. Harry. You all right? Ron looked around at the destruction. What happened? Masked attackers took the artifact that was causing the disturbance, Harry explained. Called themselves the Pure Order. Never heard of them before. Percy looked horrified. This is a catastrophic breach of the statute. We need to obliviate everyone immediately, including Dr. Foster. No, Harry said firmly. I need to speak with her first. She might have critical information. That's not your decision to make. Percy sputtered. The minister will hear about this. Fine. Tell him. But first, give me 10 minutes with Dr. Foster. Harry met Percy's gaze steadily. This is bigger than a simple magical disturbance. Percy looked like he wanted to argue further but finally nodded stiffly. 10 minutes. Then we follow protocol. As Percy and Ron left to deal with the other scientists, Harry turned back to Dr. Foster, who was examining the spot where the tablet had been. Those men called you Potter, she said without looking up. And they mentioned some kind of order. Are you with intelligence services? Not exactly. Harry took a deep breath. Dr. Foster, magic is real. I'm a wizard. Those men were wizards too, but not the good kind. That tablet was a magical artifact, and somehow your equipment was able to detect its energy. He expected disbelief, maybe even laughter. Instead, Dr. Foster looked at him with intense consideration. 8 months ago, our quantum detection equipment began picking up energy patterns that shouldn't exist according to known physics, she said slowly. These energy patterns matched mathematical models that were purely theoretical, models based on what we call non-local causality fields. In simpler terms, magic, Harry supplied. I wouldn't have used that word before tonight. She gestured to where the attackers had disappeared. But teleportation? Energy projections from wooden sticks. Either I'm having a psychotic break, or there's a whole branch of reality I never knew existed. Harry was impressed by her composure. You're taking this remarkably well. I'm a scientist, Mr. Potter. When evidence contradicts my understanding, I don't ignore the evidence, I revise my understanding. She fixed him with a penetrating stare. But I need more information. What was that tablet? Why did those men want it? And why are your colleagues so keen to make us forget everything we saw? Harry glanced at his watch. I've got about 8 minutes before my colleague insists on modifying your memory. I'll tell you what I can. Over the next few minutes, Harry gave Dr. Foster the briefest possible overview of the wizarding world, the Ministry of Magic, and the Statute of Secrecy. So you've been hiding among us for centuries, she said when he finished. An entire parallel society with its own government, schools, and technology, or magic, rather. Yes. And normally, when Muggles, non-magical people, discover us accidentally, we modify their memories for everyone's protection. It's worked for hundreds of years. Until now, Dr. Foster said pointedly. Because our technology has advanced enough to detect your energy signatures. Harry hadn't considered that implication. That could be a problem. It's an inevitability, Mr. Potter. Science progresses. What one laboratory discovered today, others will discover tomorrow. Your secret can't stay secret forever. Before Harry could respond, Percy returned. Time's up, Harry. The Obliviators are ready. Dr. Foster stood her ground. If you erase my memory, my team and I will just rediscover these energy patterns again. You can't stop scientific progress. She has a point, Percy, Harry said. And those attackers, the Pure Order, they took the artifact for a reason. I need to understand what it was and why Dr. Foster's equipment could detect it. Percy looked scandalized. You can't possibly be suggesting we leave her memory intact. That's exactly what I'm suggesting. Temporarily, at least. Harry turned to Dr. Foster. Would you be willing to work with us? Help us understand how your technology detected magic, in exchange for answers about what you discovered. Harry, this is beyond unauthorized, Percy warned. I'll take full responsibility, Harry said. But this is important, Percy. You know me, I don't break rules without good reason. After a tense moment, Percy sighed. The minister will need to approve this personally. Until then, Dr. Foster remains under Auror's supervision. My team? Dr. Foster asked. Will be obliviated as planned, Percy said firmly. One breach is all I'm willing to risk my career for. As Percy left to make arrangements, Dr. Foster turned to Harry. If I agree to help you, I want something in return beyond just answers. What's that? When this is over, I want to remember it. All of it. I don't want your people erasing my discoveries from my mind. Harry hesitated. What she was asking violated centuries of wizarding policy. But something about this situation felt different, important in ways he couldn't yet understand. I'll do everything in my power to make that happen, he promised. Back at the ministry, Harry faced the expected storm. Head Auror Robards paced his office, Percy stood stiffly by the door, and Ron sat beside Harry looking uncomfortable. Absolutely unprecedented. Robards thundered. A Muggle scientist with full knowledge of magic, being brought to the ministry itself. She's in a secure conference room with 3 Aurors, sir, Harry said calmly. And she may have crucial information about both the magical disturbance and this new group, the Pure Order. Which you could have obtained before obliviating her. With all due respect, sir, her ongoing cooperation will be valuable. Her equipment detected magical energy in ways our instruments can't. That could help us track down the artifact. Robard stopped pacing. And you're certain this artifact was the source? Positive. The disturbance stopped the moment it was taken. What was it exactly? Your report mentioned a tablet. Small stone tablet with pre-Roman inscriptions. I only saw it briefly, but it looked ancient, possibly Celtic origin. Robards frowned thoughtfully. And these pure order attackers, they targeted it specifically? Yes, sir. They knew exactly what they were looking for and where to find it. That's concerning. Robard sat heavily behind his desk. All right, Potter. You can continue working with Dr. Foster, temporarily. But Weasley stays with you at all times, and you're responsible for ensuring she doesn't learn anything beyond what's necessary for the investigation. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. The minister still needs to approve this arrangement, and he's currently in emergency meetings about the Manchester incident. Harry nodded, already planning his next steps. In the meantime, I'd like to research similar artifacts. The tablet had distinctive markings. Fine. But no taking the Muggle anywhere near the Department of Mysteries. Of course not, sir. As Harry and Ron left Robard's office, Percy caught up with them in the corridor. Harry, this is a mistake, he said in a low, urgent voice. The statute exists for a reason. I know, Percy. But something bigger is happening here. Did you see those masked wizards? A new organized group with unknown motives, stealing ancient artifacts that can disrupt Muggle technology. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Percy didn't look convinced. Just be careful. The political situation at the ministry is delicate right now. Minister Shacklebolt's progressive policies have faced increasing opposition, and an incident like this could strengthen the traditionalists. That caught Harry's attention. What do you mean? Haven't you been reading the Prophet? Arcturus Blackwood's faction has been gaining support in the Wizengamot. They want stricter enforcement of the statute and reduced interactions with the Muggle world, not expanded cooperation as Kingsley's been pushing. I've been busy, Harry admitted. The truth was he deliberately avoided wizarding politics when possible. After defeating Voldemort, he'd wanted nothing more than to live a normal life and do his job as an Auror without the constant political pressure. Well, you're about to find yourself right in the middle of it, Percy warned. Be prepared. As Percy walked away, Ron shook his head. Even when he's trying to help, he's still a prat about it. Harry smiled despite himself. He's not wrong though. Let's go see what Dr. Foster can tell us. They found Dr. Foster in a ministry conference room, calmly taking notes in a small notebook while three uncomfortable-looking Aurors watched her. Dr. Foster, Harry greeted her. Thank you for your patience. She looked up with keen interest. This building defies several laws of physics. I'm assuming some sort of spatial manipulation to create extended internal dimensions. Ron blinked. Blimey, Hermione would like her. That's exactly right, Harry confirmed, impressed by her quick understanding. Now, about the artifact, the tablet that was stolen. What can you tell us about it? We discovered it 3 months ago during an excavation for new university buildings. Construction crews found a buried chamber containing several artifacts. Most went to the archaeology department, but this one. She shook her head. It emitted energy readings unlike anything we'd seen before. And you've been studying it since then? Yes. The energy patterns were remarkably stable until tonight, when they suddenly amplified exponentially. That's what caused the citywide disturbances. Did you do anything different today? Perform new tests? Dr. Foster thought for a moment. We tried a new resonance mapping procedure, essentially bombarding the tablet with various frequencies to measure response patterns. When we hit a specific frequency range, the energy output spiked dramatically. Harry exchanged glances with Ron. You accidentally activated it. Activated what, exactly? Dr. Foster pressed. What was that tablet? I'm not entirely sure, Harry admitted. But based on the inscriptions, it's very old and very powerful. The question is, how did those Pure Order wizards know about it, and why did they want it? And why now? Ron added. If the tablet was just sitting in her lab for months, why grab it tonight specifically? Because we activated it, Dr. Foster realized. They might not have known where it was until it started emitting stronger magical energy. Harry nodded slowly. Like a beacon. A junior Auror knocked and entered the room. Mr. Potter, the minister will see you now. Just you, he added, glancing at Ron and Dr. Foster. Harry stood. I'll be right back. Actually, the Auror said awkwardly, he asked that Dr. Foster accompany you. This was unexpected. Both of us? Yes, sir. His exact words were, I want to meet this scientist who's caused such an uproar. Harry turned to Dr. Foster. Looks like you're going to meet our Minister of Magic. Wonderful, she said, gathering her notebook. I have several questions about your governmental structure. Ron snorted. Definitely would get along with Hermione. Minister Kingsley Shacklebolt's office reflected the man himself, dignified, uncluttered, and possessing an air of calm authority. The tall, bald wizard rose from behind his desk as Harry and Dr. Foster entered. Harry, he greeted with a nod before turning to Dr. Foster. And you must be the physicist who's detected magic through Muggle science. Quite remarkable. Dr. Foster seemed momentarily taken aback by Kingsley's imposing presence but recovered quickly. Minister Shacklebolt, I presume. Your subordinates seem quite concerned about my knowledge of your existence. With good reason, Doctor. Kingsley gestured for them to sit. The separation between our worlds has preserved peace for centuries. When that separation is threatened, people become fearful. People fear what they don't understand, Dr. Foster said. As a scientist, my response to the unknown isn't fear, it's curiosity. Kingsley smiled slightly. An admirable approach. Unfortunately, history has shown that the wider response to discovering magic tends toward persecution rather than curiosity. That was centuries ago, Dr. Foster countered. We've moved beyond burning people at stakes. Have we? Kingsley raised an eyebrow. Even now, how do you think the world would react to learning about an entire population with abilities that could be weaponized? That could disrupt electronic communications, manipulate minds, or transport people instantly across borders. Dr. Foster fell silent, considering this. Minister, Harry interjected, what's happening with the Manchester incident? Contained, for now. Obliviation teams have modified memories of everyone at the research facility except Dr. Foster. The official story is a new type of electromagnetic pulse weapon being tested illicitly by foreign agents. And the Pure Order? Harry asked. Kingsley's expression darkened. That's a new development. We have no records of any group by that name. Aurors are investigating, but so far, no leads. What about the tablet they stole? Do we know what it is? Our experts are reviewing historical records as we speak. Kingsley turned to Dr. Foster. Which brings me to why I wanted to meet you, Doctor. I've reviewed Harry's report, and it seems your equipment might be uniquely capable of detecting this magical artifact. Would you be willing to assist us in tracking it? Dr. Foster straightened. You're officially requesting my help? I am. Under certain conditions, of course. You would work exclusively with Auror Potter, share your findings only with approved ministry personnel, and agree to appropriate memory modifications when the investigation concludes. The last part is unacceptable, Dr. Foster said firmly. I won't agree to having my memory altered. Harry tensed, waiting for Kingsley's reaction. To his surprise, the minister nodded thoughtfully. I suspected you might say that. Perhaps we can reach a compromise. What if, instead of removing your memories, we bound you to a magical contract. You would retain your knowledge but be magically prevented from sharing it with unauthorized individuals. Dr. Foster considered this. How would such a contract work? It's similar to what we call an unbreakable vow, though less terminal in its consequences for violations. You would maintain your memories but find yourself physically unable to speak about magic to those not already aware of it. Harry was startled by this offer. Such arrangements were extremely rare. Dr. Foster thought for a moment. I would need to understand exactly what I can and cannot do under this contract before agreeing. Of course. We can have the details prepared by tomorrow. Kingsley turned to Harry. In the meantime, Harry, I want you to take Dr. Foster to your home for the night. It's the most secure location available on short notice. My home? Harry was surprised. What about ministry safe houses? All currently occupied with diplomats from the International Confederation. Your home's protections are stronger anyway. Kingsley's expression became grave. This pure order concerns me, Harry. If they targeted the tablet specifically, they may also target the person who's been studying it. Harry couldn't argue with that logic. All right. I'll need to let Ginny know. Already done. She's expecting you both. Kingsley stood, signaling the end of the meeting. Dr. Foster, thank you for your cooperation. Harry, keep me informed of any developments. As they left the minister's office, Harry noticed Dr. Foster looking thoughtful. He's not what I expected, she said. Kingsley. How so? He's reasonable. Practical. I expected more resistance to working with a Muggle. Kingsley's progressive for a wizard. He fought alongside Muggles during the Second Wizarding War and has been pushing for modernized relations between our worlds. Second Wizarding War? Dr. Foster asked curiously. There have been magical wars happening alongside our conventional ones. Harry realized how much context she was missing. It's a long story. One that I'm personally very involved in. The way people react when they see you, you're someone important in your world, aren't you? Harry shrugged uncomfortably. I played a role in ending the war. It was a team effort. Dr. Foster looked like she wanted to ask more questions, but they'd reached the ministry atrium where Ron was waiting for them. All set? Ron asked. Hermione's meeting us at your place. Thought she might help explain things to Dr. Foster. Harry nodded gratefully. Perfect. No one's better at explanations than Hermione. Your wife? Dr. Foster guessed, looking at Ron. Yeah, Ron said proudly. Brightest witch of our generation. Currently revolutionizing magical law when she's not telling me I loaded the dishwasher wrong. Dr. Foster smiled at that. Sounds like someone I'd get along with. That's what I said. Ron exclaimed. Ready to go? We'll have to apparate, magically transport ourselves. It might feel a bit strange. Dr. Foster squared her shoulders. After everything I've seen today, I'm prepared for strange. The sensation of side-along apparition left Dr. Foster gasping and slightly green when they appeared in the front garden of Grimmauld Place. That was intense, she managed, steadying herself against Harry's arm. You get used to it, Ron assured her, though Harry remembered it had taken Ron weeks to stop feeling nauseated after apparition lessons. Number 12, Grimmauld Place had transformed significantly since Harry inherited it. Gone were the dark, oppressive decorations and mounted house elf heads. The interior now featured warm colors, comfortable furniture, and moving photographs of the Potter Weasley extended family covering the walls. Harry? Is that you? Ginny called from the kitchen. Yeah, we're here, Harry answered, leading Dr. Foster into the warmth of his home. Ginny appeared, wiping her hands on a tea towel. Her eyes widened slightly at the sight of Dr. Foster. You must be Dr. Foster, she said, extending her hand. Ginny Potter. Welcome to our home. Eleanor, please, Dr. Foster replied, shaking Ginny's hand. Thank you for accommodating me on such short notice. Any friend of Harry's is welcome here. Especially one who's apparently turned the ministry upside down. There was amusement in Ginny's voice. Hermione's in the study, practically bouncing with excitement to meet you. As if summoned by her name, Hermione appeared in the doorway to the study. Her hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and she carried a stack of books that reached her chin. Dr. Foster. I'm Hermione Granger Weasley. She somehow managed to shift the entire stack to one arm to offer her hand. I have so many questions about how your equipment detected magical energy. The implications for magical-muggle relations are enormous. Told you, Ron whispered loudly to Dr. Foster. Dr. Foster looked delighted. Ms. Granger Weasley, I have just as many questions for you. The fundamental principles behind your abilities contradict everything I thought I understood about energy conservation and transfer. Oh, magical energy follows different laws entirely. I've been researching the intersection of magical theory and Muggle physics for years. I have some papers I'd love you to review, though you'll have to do it here since they can't leave the wizarding jurisdiction. Ladies, Harry interrupted gently, maybe we could start with the basics. Dr. Foster has only known about magic for a few hours. Hermione looked momentarily abashed. Of course, you're right. Let's sit down. I've prepared a brief overview of wizarding history and society. By brief, she means 300 pages, Ron muttered, earning an elbow in the ribs from his wife. They gathered in the Potters' comfortable living room. Creature, now far friendlier under Harry and Ginny's ownership, appeared with tea and sandwiches. Dr. Foster jumped when the elderly house elf popped into existence. Another magical species? She asked, recovering quickly. This is Creature, our house elf, Harry explained. Creature, this is Dr. Foster. She'll be staying with us for a while. Creature bowed low. Creature welcomes Master Harry's Muggle guest. Creature has prepared the blue bedroom. As Creature disappeared again, Dr. Foster turned to Hermione. House elf. They appear to be sentient magical beings in a service role. Is this a form of employment or? Hermione's expression darkened. Historically, it was magical enslavement, though we've made significant progress in house elf rights over the past decade. Creature is now paid and has regular days off, though many older house elves like him still prefer the traditional arrangement. I see. Dar. Foster looked troubled. Your society seems to have its own complex social issues. We do, Harry acknowledged. We're not perfect by any means. The wizarding world can be progressive in some ways and shockingly archaic in others. Over the next few hours, Hermione gave Dr. Foster a crash course in wizarding society, with Harry, Ron, and Ginny adding personal anecdotes. They explained about Hogwarts, the ministry's structure, and gave a sanitized version of the war against Voldemort. So you were essentially child soldiers fighting a magical terrorist, Dr. Foster summarized, looking at Harry with new understanding. And you personally defeated this Voldemort person when you were 17? Harry shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't just me. Everyone fought, many died. I just happened to be the one who dealt the final blow. Because of a prophecy, Dr. Foster said skeptically. You actually put stock in prophecies? They're real in our world, Hermione explained. Not all of them come true, but genuine prophecies made by true seers have magical power. The one about Harry and Voldemort became self-fulfilling once Voldemort acted on it, but it had genuine magical weight behind it. Dr. Foster looked fascinated. So determinism exists in magical contexts. The future can be known in advance. Only partially and unpredictably, Hermione qualified. Prophecies are typically vague and can be interpreted in multiple ways. The future isn't fixed, choices still matter. The conversation continued until late in the evening, with Dr. Foster asking increasingly sophisticated questions about magical theory. Finally, Ginny noticed Harry trying to stifle yawns. I think that's enough for tonight, she announced. Harry's been up since before dawn, and tomorrow will likely be busy. Dr. Foster looked surprised when she checked her watch. It's past midnight. I apologize for keeping everyone up. No need to apologize, Hermione said warmly. It's refreshing to discuss magic with someone seeing it from a completely different perspective. As everyone prepared to leave or head to bed, Harry remembered something. Dr. Foster, tomorrow we'll need to return to your lab to collect your equipment. If the Pure Order activated the tablet, we might be able to detect its new location. Absolutely, she nodded. I'll need my quantum resonance scanner and the frequency modulators at minimum. I'll arrange ministry transportation for morning, Harry said, stifling another yawn. After showing Dr. Foster to her room, Harry finally collapsed into bed beside Ginny, who curled against him immediately. Quite a day, she murmured. A Muggle scientist who can detect magic and a new dark wizard group all at once. Something big is happening, Harry said, staring at the ceiling. I can feel it. Like the calm before a storm. Ginny propped herself up on one elbow. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about what Percy said, about politics at the ministry. About this Pure Order group appearing just when tensions between progressives and traditionalists are high. You think they're connected to the political situation? I don't know. But their timing seems convenient. Harry turned to face her. And that tablet, it felt important somehow. When I was near it, I felt this strange pull, almost like it was calling to me specifically. Ginny's brow furrowed with concern. Be careful, Harry. You have a habit of finding yourself at the center of dangerous situations. Or they have a habit of finding me, he replied with a half-smile. Just promise me you'll keep Ron close. And call for backup if anything seems off. I promise. He kissed her softly. Now get some sleep. James will probably wake us at dawn demanding pancakes. Despite his exhaustion, sleep eluded Harry. His mind kept returning to the tablet and the strange sensation he'd felt in its presence. Eventually, he slipped out of bed and headed downstairs to the study. The house was quiet as Harry pulled out old books from the Black family collection. Most had been cleansed of dark magic years ago, but Hermione had insisted they keep the historically valuable ones. Harry searched through them, looking for references to ancient Celtic magical artifacts. Hours passed as he flipped through dusty tomes. His eyes grew heavy, but just as he was about to give up, something caught his attention. In Forgotten Magics of the British Isles, a small illustration showed a tablet remarkably similar to the one he'd seen in Manchester. The caption read, "The Speaker's Stone of Morrigan, last documented in the possession of Cassandra Trelawney, circa 1723. Said to amplify prophecies and bridge worlds when awakened." Harry sat up straighter, suddenly wide awake. Cassandra Trelawney, the famous seer who was Professor Trelawney's great-great-grandmother. And a stone that bridged worlds? That couldn't be coincidence. He was about to read further when a small noise from the doorway startled him. Dr. Foster stood there, wrapped in a borrowed dressing gown. "I'm sorry," she said. "I couldn't sleep. Too many revelations in one day." "I understand," Harry said, closing the book casually. "It's a lot to process." Dr. Foster entered the study, her eyes roaming over the magical artifacts and moving photographs. "Your world is extraordinary, Mr. Potter." "Harry, please." "Harry, then." She paused, then asked, "The minister mentioned a magical contract that would allow me to keep my memories. Do you think he was serious?" "Kingsley doesn't make offers he doesn't intend to honor," Harry assured her. "But such arrangements are extremely rare. You should understand what you're getting into. I'm a scientist. Understanding is my life's work." She smiled slightly. "Even if what I'm trying to understand breaks all my previous models of reality." Harry found himself liking this pragmatic woman. "Get some rest, Dr. Foster. Tomorrow we'll try to track down that tablet and figure out what the Pure Order wants with it. She nodded and turned to leave, then paused. One more question, if you don't mind. In the lab, when those masked people attacked, you pushed me behind you without hesitation. You were protecting a complete stranger. It's my job, Harry said simply. No, she shook her head. It was instinct for you. Natural. You've been fighting to protect people for a long time, haven't you? Harry didn't answer immediately. I've seen what happens when good people stand aside, he said finally. I don't intend to make that mistake. Dr. Foster studied him for a moment. Good night, Harry Potter. I think I understand now why people in your world look at you differently. After she left, Harry returned to the book, but his attention was divided. Something about this situation felt familiar, the tension in the wizarding world, a new threat emerging, an ancient artifact with mysterious powers. He'd lived through enough to recognize the signs. Change was coming, whether the wizarding world was ready or not. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Harry woke early, his mind still turning over what he'd read about the Speaker's Stone. At breakfast, he found Dr. Foster already deep in conversation with Hermione, who must have returned early. Morning, Harry greeted them, pouring himself coffee. You're here early, Hermione. I couldn't stay away, Hermione admitted. Eleanor was explaining how her quantum detection equipment works, and it's fascinating. The principles could revolutionize how we track magical signatures. Harry raised an eyebrow at the use of Dr. Foster's first name but didn't comment. Any breakthrough on how Muggle technology detected magic in the first place? We have a theory, Dr. Foster, Eleanor said. Magic seems to create quantum disturbances that normally cancel themselves out in ways undetectable to conventional instruments. But my team developed sensors specifically designed to detect quantum anomalies that violate standard models. In other words, Hermione added excitedly, they weren't looking for magic, they were looking for unexplained quantum phenomena, and magic just happens to create those. Which means other Muggle scientists might start detecting magic soon, Harry realized. If they build similar equipment. Exactly, both women said simultaneously, then glanced at each other with smiles. We need to get to Eleanor's lab, Harry said, checking his watch. Ron should be here soon with Ministry transport. As if on cue, the fireplace flared green, and Ron stepped through, brushing soot from his aura robes. Morning, all, he said cheerfully. Transport's arranged. Ministry cars will be here in 10 minutes. Eleanor was staring at the fireplace. You travel through fire? Flow network, Ron explained. Connects wizarding fireplaces. Dead useful, though I prefer apparition, less soot. While they waited for the cars, Harry pulled Hermione aside. I found something last night, he said quietly, showing her the book. The tablet matches this description. The Speaker's Stone of Morrigan. Hermione's eyes widened as she read. Harry, this is, if it really is the Speaker's Stone. She lowered her voice further. According to legend, it was created to record prophecies too dangerous to be spoken aloud. And it belonged to Cassandra Trelawney. Yes, but it disappeared centuries ago. How did it end up in a Muggle excavation in Manchester? That's what we need to find out, Harry said. Along with why the Pure Order wants it. The sleek black Ministry cars arrived precisely on time. The drive to Manchester passed quickly, with Eleanor pointing out landmarks to an enthusiastic Ron, who had limited experience with Muggle cities. When they arrived at the Institute, they found it cordoned off with police tape. Official-looking individuals in suits, clearly magical law enforcement disguised as Muggle authorities, nodded to Harry as they approached. Site secure, Mr. Potter, one said quietly. Memory modifications complete. Staff believe a gas leak damaged the facility. Thanks, Jenkins, Harry replied. We need access to Dr. Foster's laboratory. Inside, the lab was in disarray from the previous night's confrontation. Eleanor immediately went to her equipment, checking for damage. Most of it seems intact, she reported, relief evident in her voice. We should be able to recalibrate the scanners to detect the tablet's energy signature. How long will that take? Ron asked. A few hours to program the frequency parameters. The tablet emitted a very specific quantum pattern. We'll secure the perimeter while you work, Harry decided. Ron, coordinate with the Aurors outside. I want to check something in that storage room where I found the tablet. While Eleanor and Hermione began working on the equipment, Harry returned to the small room where he discovered the Speaker's Stone. Now that he knew what to look for, he examined the area more carefully, casting detection spells for residual magic. His wand detected faint traces of an unusual magical signature, ancient and powerful, distinct from the spells cast during last night's confrontation. Following the traces, he discovered a concealed compartment in the wall behind where the tablet had been stored. Inside was a weathered parchment, preserved by what felt like centuries-old preservation charms. The writing was faded but still legible, an archaic form of English that Harry struggled to decipher. He could make out phrases like, "the bridge between worlds," and, "when barriers thin." "Find something?" Ron asked, appearing in the doorway. Harry carefully removed the parchment. "Maybe. Let's have Hermione look at this." Back in the main laboratory, Eleanor and Hermione were deep in technical discussion while calibrating a complex-looking device with multiple spinning components. "Hermione," Harry called, "can you translate this? It looks old." Hermione examined the parchment, her expression growing increasingly concerned. "Harry, this appears to be a fragment of a prophecy. A very old one." She read aloud, "When the worlds grow too distant, yet too close, when hidden knowledge becomes revealed, the bridge shall rise, marked by lightning, to unite what was sundered or witness both fall." The word sent a chill down Harry's spine. Lightning could easily refer to his scar. But the bridge? And what worlds needed uniting? Eleanor looked up from her equipment. "That sounds like it could relate to the current situation, Muggle technology detecting magic for the first time." "Maybe," Harry said, trying to process this new information. "But prophecies are typically cryptic until they're fulfilled." "Harry," Ron said slowly, "your scar is shaped like lightning." "You don't think?" "No," Harry shook his head firmly. "I fulfilled my prophecy when I defeated Voldemort. This has to be about something else." Hermione didn't look convinced. "Prophecies concerning the same person can overlap or extend. And you do have a history of being at the center of major magical events." Before Harry could respond, Eleanor's equipment began emitting a high-pitched tone. "I've got it," she exclaimed. "The quantum resonance signature is active again. I can track it." They gathered around her scanner, which displayed a 3D map of Britain with a pulsing red dot in the Scottish Highlands. "That's near Hogwarts," Harry realized with growing concern. "Not just near," Hermione corrected, looking pale. "That's exactly where Hogwarts is located." Harry's aura instincts kicked into high alert. "Ron, contact Hogwarts immediately. Warn McGonagall that the Pure Order might be targeting the school." "On it," Ron said, already producing his Patronus to send a message. "We need to get there now," Harry said, his mind racing. "If they've taken the Speaker's Stone to Hogwarts, there must be a reason." "I'm coming with you," Eleanor stated firmly. "My equipment is the only reliable way to track the tablet's energy signature." Harry hesitated only briefly. "All right, but you stay close to us at all times." Within minutes, they had packed Eleanor's essential equipment into magically expanded cases. An emergency portkey authorization came through from the Ministry, allowing them to transport directly to Hogsmeade Village near the school. As they prepared to depart, Harry couldn't shake the ominous feeling settling over him. The prophecy fragment, the Speaker's Stone at Hogwarts, a new group of magical extremists, all pointing towards something momentous. And somehow, once again, he found himself at the center of it all. The portkey activated with a jerk behind their navels, spinning them through space toward whatever awaited at Hogwarts. As the world blurred around them, Harry gripped his wand tightly, prepared for whatever they might find, but unaware of just how drastically his life was about to change. Chapter 2, Prophecy Unbound. The portkey spun them through space and slammed them onto the cobblestone streets of Hogsmeade. Eleanor staggered sideways, and Harry caught her arm to steady her. "Sorry about that," he said. "Magical transportation takes getting used to." "I'm beginning to think your people deliberately make it unpleasant," Eleanor muttered, straightening her clothes. The village was quiet in the early afternoon, with only a few witches and wizards moving between shops. Several turned to stare at the unusual group, 2 Aurors in official robes, Hermione in her ministry attire, and Eleanor in distinctly Muggle clothing carrying strange equipment. "Hogwarts is this way," Harry said, pointing toward the path leading out of the village. "We should hurry." As they started walking, Ron's Patronus returned, the silver terrier bounding through the air to deliver its message in Ron's voice. "McGonagall says school is secure. No unusual activity detected. She's meeting us at the gates." "That's odd," Hermione said, frowning. "If your equipment shows the stone at Hogwarts." "The castle has extensive magical protections," Harry reminded her. "Maybe they're concealing themselves." Eleanor checked her portable scanner. "The signal is definitely coming from that direction, but it's fluctuating. Almost like it's unstable." They reached the wrought iron gates of Hogwarts, where Professor McGonagall stood waiting. Despite being well into her 70s, the headmistress stood tall and formidable as ever, her sharp eyes taking in the group with practiced assessment. "Potter, Weasley, Granger," she greeted them with a nod before her gaze settled on Eleanor. "And you must be the Muggle scientist the Ministry informed me about." "Minerva McGonagall, headmistress." "Dr. Eleanor Foster," Eleanor replied, extending her hand. "Your school is remarkable." She stared past the gates at Hogwarts Castle in the distance, its towers and turrets magnificent against the Scottish sky. "You can see it?" McGonagall asked, surprised. "Of course," Eleanor said. "Why wouldn't I?" "Muggle-repelling charms," Hermione explained. "Muggles typically see only ruins with danger signs." "Fascinating," Eleanor murmured. "Perhaps my exposure to the magical artifact has temporarily affected my perception." McGonagall opened the gates. "We can discuss theories later. Mr. Potter, you believe this Pure Order group has brought a dangerous artifact to Hogwarts?" "Dr. Foster's equipment is tracking it here," Harry confirmed as they walked toward the castle. "It's called the Speaker's Stone of Morrigan. An ancient device linked to prophecies." McGonagall's lips thinned. "Prophecies. Always prophecies with you, Potter." Harry smiled despite himself. "Believe me, Professor, I'm not thrilled about it either." As they approached the castle, Eleanor's scanner began emitting a rapid beeping sound. "The signal's getting stronger," she said, studying the display. "But it's not coming from the main building. It's..." She pointed to their right. "That direction." Harry followed her gesture and felt his stomach drop. "The Forbidden Forest." "Of course it is," Ron groaned. "When is it ever not the creepy forest?" McGonagall frowned. "I'll alert the staff to secure the students in their common rooms. The forest has been unusually active lately. Centaurs reported disturbances in the magical currents last week." "That might be related to the tablet," Hermione suggested. "If it's amplifying magical energy like it did in Manchester." "We need to move quickly," Harry decided. "Professor, can you have Hagrid meet us at his hut? We could use his knowledge of the forest." "He's away on a breeding program for the Thestrals," McGonagall replied. "But I'll accompany you myself. The forest has changed since your student days, new creatures have established territories, and the centaurs have become more territorial." Harry nodded, appreciating the offer. "Thank you, Professor." As they approached the edge of the forest, Eleanor's equipment began behaving erratically, the display flickering between readings. "The magical interference is affecting my instruments," she said, frustrated. "I can still track the general direction, but precision is compromised." "Stay close to me," Harry told her. "The Forbidden Forest isn't just dangerous because of the creatures, the magic itself can play tricks." Eleanor nodded, her scientific curiosity clearly warring with healthy apprehension. They entered the forest with wands drawn, following the increasingly unstable readings from Eleanor's scanner. The trees grew denser as they moved deeper, filtering the sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor. "This way," Eleanor whispered after about 20 minutes of walking. "The signal's strongest to the northwest." "That leads toward the ancient standing stones," McGonagall said. "A place of old magic, predating Hogwarts itself." Harry felt a chill run down his spine that had nothing to do with the forest's shadows. Perfect place to activate an ancient artifact. They proceeded cautiously until they reached the edge of a clearing. In its center stood a circle of weathered megaliths, their surfaces covered in faded carvings. Between them, 3 robed figures stood around a flat stone altar where the tablet glowed with pulsing blue light. "The Pure Order," Harry whispered, recognizing their silver masks. "They're performing some kind of ritual." One figure was chanting in a language Harry didn't recognize, while another poured what looked like potion over the tablet, causing its glow to intensify. "We need to stop them," Ron muttered. "Whatever they're doing can't be good." "Wait," Hermione cautioned. "Interrupting an active ritual could be catastrophic." "Too late." Eleanor's scanner suddenly emitted a loud electronic whine. The Pure Order members spun toward their hiding place. "Intruders," one shouted. "Protect the ritual." "So much for surprise," Harry said, then called out, "Ministry of Magic. Stand down immediately." Instead, 2 of the masked figures sent blasts of magic toward them while the third continued the ritual. "Protego." Harry and McGonagall cast shields simultaneously, deflecting the spells. "Get Dr. Foster to safety." Harry shouted to Hermione, already moving forward to engage the attackers. Ron flanked left while Harry went right, both firing stunning spells that the cultists deflected. McGonagall transfigured nearby branches into snarling wolves that charged the attackers, forcing them to divide their attention. Harry closed in on one cultist, ducking under a jet of purple light and responding with a disarming charm that connected, sending the wizard's wand flying. Before he could follow up, the ground beneath them trembled. "The ritual is reaching completion," the lead cultist called out. "The speaker awakens." The tablet's glow suddenly expanded outward in a shockwave of blue energy. Harry felt it pass through him like ice water, leaving a strange resonance in his chest. As the light touched the standing stones, ancient runes carved into their surfaces illuminated one by one. "Stop them!" Harry shouted, pushing forward despite the disorienting wave. The unarmed cultist dove for his wand, but Ron's stunning spell caught him mid-motion, dropping him to the ground. The second attacker engaged McGonagall in a furious exchange of spells that set parts of the clearing ablaze. Harry reached the altar and confronted the ritual leader. "It's over," he said, wand aimed steadily. "Step away from the artifact." The masked figure laughed, a woman's voice. "Oh, Potter. Always the hero, always too late. Do you even understand what you're interfering with?" "I understand enough," Harry said. "The speaker's stone doesn't belong to you. It belongs to those who know its purpose," she replied. "The prophecy must be fulfilled." That caught Harry off guard. "What prophecy?" Before she could answer, all the standing stones flared with blinding light. The tablet rose from the altar, hovering in midair as cracks appeared across its surface. Light poured from these fissures as the tablet began to rotate. "Yes," the cultist cried. "The unbinding begins." Harry acted instinctively, grabbing for the tablet. The moment his fingers touched its surface, pain shot through his scar, a sensation he hadn't felt in a decade. Images flooded his mind, a stone archway, two worlds separated by a thin veil, a figure with lightning on their brows standing between them. The cultist seized Harry's momentary disorientation to break away, shouting to her companions, "The bridge has touched the speaker. Our work here is done." The tablet suddenly shattered in Harry's hands, fragments turning to dust that swirled around him in a cyclone of blue light. He heard voices, hundreds of overlapping whispers in languages he didn't understand. One voice rose above the others, speaking in clear English, "The bridge shall rise, marked by lightning, to unite what was sundered or witness both fall." When science meets magic at the turning of the age, only the chosen one can prevent the coming storm. The dust funnel collapsed inward, much of it absorbing into Harry's skin while the rest scattered to the wind. Harry fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the sensation of ancient magic pouring into him. When he regained his senses, the Pure Order members had vanished, apparently disapparating during the chaos. Ron and McGonagall were rushing toward him, while Hermione emerged from the trees with Eleanor. "Harry!" Ron reached him first. "What the bloody hell just happened?" "I don't know," Harry said, his voice shaking slightly as he got to his feet. "The tablet, it recognized me somehow." Eleanor approached cautiously, her scanner held out. "The artifact's energy signature has changed." She looked up at Harry with wide eyes. "It's inside you now." "Inside me?" Harry echoed. Hermione cast several diagnostic spells around Harry, her expression growing increasingly concerned. "She's right. The magical signature from the tablet has somehow merged with your own." "That's not possible," McGonagall stated, though she didn't sound entirely convinced. "I heard a prophecy," Harry said quietly. "When the tablet broke. Something about, the bridge marked by lightning, uniting worlds." Hermione's face paled. "Harry, your scar, it's glowing." Harry reached up to touch his lightning-shaped scar, feeling it warm beneath his fingertips. For 10 years it had been just a normal scar, but now. "We need to get you back to the Ministry," Ron said firmly. "Get the unspeakables to examine you." "No," Harry shook his head. "Not the Ministry. Not yet. If this is connected to a prophecy, I want to understand it first, before it becomes a political issue." "Where then?" Ron asked. Harry thought for a moment. "Grimmauld Place. It has the Black family library, and we can contact people we trust." McGonagall nodded. "A wise precaution, Potter. Recent changes at the Ministry give me pause as well." She glanced at Eleanor. "Your Muggle scientist should come too. Her perspective may prove valuable." "I need to report to Kingsley," Hermione said. "He needs to know about this, especially if a new prophecy concerns Harry." "Tell him in person only," Harry cautioned. "No memos, no Patronus messages." "I know how to be discreet, Harry," Hermione said with a pointed look. "I'll meet you at Grimmauld Place after." They made their way back through the forest in tense silence. Harry felt strange, not ill, but different, as though the magic from the tablet was still settling within him. His scar continued to emit a faint glow visible even in daylight. At the edge of the grounds, they said goodbye to McGonagall, who promised to investigate any connections between Hogwarts history and the standing stones where the ritual had taken place. "Be careful, Potter," she said before leaving. "Prophecies have a way of forcing fulfillment, whether we wish it or not." Harry nodded, thinking grimly of the prophecy that had shaped his entire youth. "I know, Professor. All too well." Back at Grimmauld Place, Harry paced the study while Ron sent Patronus messages to trusted friends and colleagues. Eleanor sat examining her readings, occasionally murmuring scientific terms to herself, while Ginny watched Harry with worried eyes. "So this tablet exploded, and now its magic is inside you?" Ginny asked, trying to understand. "And your scar is glowing again?" "That's the simplified version," Harry confirmed, rubbing his forehead. The glow had dimmed somewhat but hadn't disappeared. "I think it has something to do with that fragment of prophecy we found in Manchester." Which mentioned the bridge marked by lightning, Ginny said, glancing meaningfully at his scar. Subtle. Despite everything, Harry smiled. Ginny's sardonic humor had always been a comfort in difficult times. The fireplace flared green, and Hermione stepped through, brushing soot from her robes. Her expression was grave. "Kingsley's concerned," she said without preamble. "Especially about the timing." "What timing?" Harry asked. "There's a vote tomorrow in the Wisengamot on Kingsley's Muggle Cooperation Initiative, expanding magical assistance to Muggle law enforcement for certain international threats. The traditionalist faction, led by Arcturus Blackwood, has been fighting it for months." Ron frowned. "You think this pure order lot is connected to Blackwood?" "I don't know," Hermione admitted. "But a mysterious group causing magical disturbances visible to Muggles right before a vote on Muggle-Wizard cooperation? It's suspicious timing." "Who is Blackwood exactly?" Harry asked. He'd heard the name in ministry corridors but had deliberately kept his distance from politics. "Arcturus Blackwood comes from an old pure-blood family, not Death Eaters during the war, but sympathizers to the traditional values side," Hermione explained. "He's gained significant influence in the Wisengamot over the past 3 years, positioning himself as the champion of wizarding heritage and separation from Muggles." "And people are listening to him?" Harry asked, incredulous. "After everything with Voldemort?" "He's smart about it," Ginny interjected. "I've covered his speeches for the Prophet. He never mentions blood purity or Muggle inferiority outright. He talks about preserving magical culture and the dangers of technological encroachment. Makes it sound reasonable. He's also rumored to be positioning himself to challenge Kingsley in the next minister election," Hermione added. Eleanor, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "This political context may be relevant to what's happening with the artifact. If this speaker's stone relates to a prophecy about bridging the magical and non-magical worlds, that would directly challenge this Blackwood's platform." "Good point," Harry acknowledged. "But we still don't know the full prophecy or what the bridge actually means." The fireplace flared again, and Luna Lovegood stepped through, followed by Neville Longbottom. Luna looked exactly as Harry remembered, long blonde hair, dreamy expression, radish earrings, while Neville had grown more confident in his role as Hogwarts herbology professor. "Harry!" Luna exclaimed, immediately noticing his glowing scar. "Oh my, you've become a vessel for ancient magic. How fascinating." Harry couldn't help smiling. "Good to see you too, Luna." "McGonagall told me what happened in the forest," Neville said, shaking Harry's hand. "Those standing stones are extremely old, predating Merlin, even. Some of the plants that grow exclusively in that circle have magical properties not found anywhere else. We need to understand the full prophecy," Harry said. "All we have are fragments." "The Department of Mysteries would have records of all prophecies," Hermione suggested. Ron shook his head. "Most were destroyed during our 5th year, remember?" "The physical recordings were destroyed," Luna corrected in her serene voice. "But the department maintains backup records of prophecy transcriptions. My father wrote about it years ago in the Quibbler." No one believed him, of course. Everyone stared at Luna. "Are you certain about this, Luna?" Hermione asked carefully. "Oh yes. Daddy interviewed an unspeakable for the article. They have a hidden archive called the Chronos Repository that stores copies of all prophecies ever recorded." "That actually makes sense," Hermione admitted. "They wouldn't risk losing the information even if the physical prophecy spheres were destroyed. So we need access to this repository," Harry said. "Luna, did your father's article mention where it's located?" "In the Department of Mysteries, naturally. Behind the time room, through what appears to be a solid wall. You need both an unspeakable's authorization and the touch of someone mentioned in a prophecy to gain entry." Harry exchanged glances with Hermione and Ron. "Well, I'm mentioned in at least one prophecy. But we still need an unspeakable's authorization," Hermione pointed out. And I doubt they hand those out easily. What about Croaker? Ron suggested. He's the head unspeakable, and he worked with Dad during the war. Might be sympathetic. Worth a try, Harry agreed. Though we should be careful who we trust at the ministry right now. Eleanor had been watching this exchange with fascination. Your government has an entire department dedicated to studying prophecies and time. Among other mysteries of existence, Hermione explained. Time, death, thought, love, space. Incredible, Eleanor murmured. In the scientific community, we're still debating whether time travel is theoretically possible, and you have a room dedicated to it. Speaking of time, Ginny interrupted, we're running out of it. If this prophecy is related to Kingsley's vote tomorrow, we need to understand it tonight. Harry nodded decisively. Hermione, contact Croaker. Use the secure flue in my office upstairs, it can't be monitored. Ron, reach out to your dad. If anyone knows who we can trust at the ministry right now, it's Arthur. Neville, Luna, can you research anything related to the bridge or the Speaker's Stone? The Black Library has books on ancient artifacts. What about me? Eleanor asked. I need you to analyze what happened to the tablet's energy. Why did it transfer to me? What does it mean? Everyone moved to their assigned tasks, leaving Harry and Ginny alone in the study. You're taking charge again, Ginny observed. Just like old times. Harry ran a hand through his unruly hair. I didn't ask for this, Gin. You never do, she said with a sad smile. But it finds you anyway. She touched his cheek gently. Just remember, whatever this prophecy says, you have choices. You always have choices. Harry covered her hand with his. I know. That's the lesson I learned last time. Prophecies shape events, but our choices determine outcomes. The tender moment was interrupted when Hermione burst back into the room, looking flustered. Croaker's gone, she announced. His assistant says he was summoned to an emergency Wisengamot session called by Blackwood. They're voting on the Muggle Cooperation Initiative tonight instead of tomorrow. Blackwood's moving up the vote. Why? Harry asked. I don't know, but it can't be coincidence, Hermione said worriedly. We need to get into that repository tonight, with or without official approval. Harry straightened. Then we do it the old-fashioned way. Ron entered in time to hear this. Breaking into the Department of Mysteries? Again. Brilliant. Let me call the family, tell them I'll be late for Sunday dinner because I'm breaking into my workplace with Harry Potter. Again. Despite the tension, everyone smiled. Just like old times, Hermione said, echoing Ginny's earlier words. Not quite, Harry replied, tapping his glowing scar. This time, I think I'm bringing something extra to the party. 2 hours later, Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood in the circular entrance chamber of the Department of Mysteries. Getting in had been surprisingly easy with their ministry credentials, even after hours. The real challenge lay ahead. The time room first, Hermione whispered, though the chamber was empty. Something about the department always inspired hushed voices. They tried one door, finding the love chamber behind it, filled with a shimmering pink atmosphere they quickly retreated from. The second door revealed the space chamber with its floating planetary models. The third attempt yielded the time room, with its array of time-related magical objects. Luna said the entrance to the Chronos repository appears as a solid wall, Harry reminded them, moving carefully between shelves of hourglasses and time-turners. Behind the main clock, she said, Hermione added, pointing to a massive astronomical clock at the far end of the room. They approached cautiously. The clock was enormous, 15 feet tall, with dozens of hands tracking different celestial bodies and magical measurements. Behind it stood what appeared to be a solid stone wall. How do we activate it? Ron asked. Luna said it needs an unspeakable's authorization and someone named in a prophecy. Maybe. Harry stepped forward and placed his hand against the wall. Nothing happened. There must be a specific trigger, Hermione theorized, examining the clock. Perhaps a combination. As they contemplated the problem, Harry felt a strange warmth emanating from his scar. Following instinct, he touched it with his fingertips, then pressed his hand to the wall again. This time, the stone rippled like water under his touch. "It's working," Hermione whispered excitedly. But the rippling stopped after a moment, the wall remaining solid. "We still need the unspeakable component," Harry realized. "Maybe it's not a person but an object," Ron suggested. "Something only unspeakables would have." Hermione's eyes lit up. "The time room key. Every department has a master key held by its head." "Great," Ron said sarcastically. "So we just need to find Croaker in the middle of a Wisengamot session and borrow his key." "Simple." "Not necessarily," Harry said slowly. "Remember that case last year with the smuggled department artifacts? We recovered a set of keys. Which should still be in Auror evidence lockup," Ron finished, understanding dawning. "Harry, you're brilliant." "I'm also breaking about 50 ministry regulations," Harry pointed out. "You don't have to come along, this could mean your jobs." "Don't start that noble self-sacrifice routine again," Ron said firmly. "We're coming." "Right, Hermione?" "Of course we are," Hermione affirmed. "Though I would appreciate if we could not make a habit of illegal department break-ins. This is the second time in the Department of Mysteries alone." "Technically third," Harry corrected with a half-smile. "Remember that case with the cursed prophecy sphere in 03? How could I forget?" Ron groaned. "I had tentacles for a week." They quickly made their way to the Auror department, using Harry's authority to access the evidence lockup. Finding the confiscated department keys took only minutes. "This one has the symbol of the Department of Mysteries," Hermione said, holding up an ornate silver key with celestial markings. Back in the time room, Harry held the key in one hand and pressed the other to the wall, focusing on his scar. This time, the stone melted away completely, revealing a narrow corridor beyond. "I can't believe that worked," Ron muttered as they entered. The corridor led to a circular chamber smaller than the main entrance room of the department. Its walls were lined with thousands of slim drawers, each labeled with dates spanning centuries. In the center stood a pedestal with a shallow stone basin similar to a pensieve, but filled with what looked like liquid silver. "The Chronos Repository," Hermione breathed, approaching the drawers. "Organized by date of prophecy recording. But we don't know when this prophecy was recorded," Harry pointed out. "Maybe we don't need to," Ron said, gesturing to the pedestal. "This looks important." Harry approached the basin cautiously. Ancient runes carved around its rim spelled out instructions: "Speak the subject, reveal the fate." "It must be an index system," Hermione suggested. "Try speaking your name." Harry leaned over the silvery substance. "Harry Potter." The liquid rippled, then formed into floating silvery text: "2 prophecies recorded regarding Harry James Potter." 2. Harry's eyebrows rose. "I only knew about Trelawney's." The text continued: "Prophecy 1, SPT to APWBD, recorded 1980. Status, fulfilled." This was the familiar prophecy about Harry and Voldemort. Prophecy 2, CPT to GOM, recorded 1702. Status, pending. 1702. Ron exclaimed. "That's over 300 years ago. How could it be about you?" "CPT," Hermione said thoughtfully. "Cassandra Patricia Trelawney, perhaps. She was a renowned seer in the early 18th century." "And GOM?" Harry asked. "Gerbold Ollivander Marchbanks, maybe. He was an influential wizard around that time," Hermione suggested. "Whatever it is, we need to see it," Harry said. "How do we access the actual prophecy?" In answer, one of the thousands of drawers slid open. Hermione approached it and carefully removed a small crystal sphere similar to the prophecies they'd encountered in their 5th year. Unlike those, this one contained swirling silver and blue mist that pulsed with inner light. Should I? Hermione held it tentatively. I'll take it, Harry said, reaching for the sphere. The moment his fingers touched it, his scar flared brightly, and the mist within the sphere formed into 2 ghostly faces, an elegant woman with sharp features who Harry guessed was Cassandra Trelawney, and a stern-looking wizard with flowing robes. Cassandra's spectral voice filled the chamber. When the worlds grow too distant, yet too close, when hidden knowledge becomes revealed, the bridge shall rise, marked by lightning, to unite what was sundered or witness both fall. 3 centuries hence, as magic weakens and science strengthens, the barriers between worlds shall thin and tremble. Only the twice-chosen one can restore balance. He who defeated darkness must become light, the bridge between realms, between blood, between powers. If he embraces this fate, new unity shall blossom. If he rejects the call, both worlds face oblivion. For magic and mundane were never meant to be separate, and nature itself shall force what wizards have denied. The faces dissolved back into mist, leaving the 3 friends staring at each other in stunned silence. Bloody hell, Ron finally whispered. It is about you. 3 centuries hence, Hermione repeated. From 1702, that's almost exactly now. And, twice-chosen one. The one who defeated darkness, Harry continued, feeling a weight settling on his shoulders. This prophecy, it's saying I'm supposed to somehow unite the magical and muggle worlds. That's what the bridge means, Hermione realized. Not a physical structure but a person, you, bridging the gap between wizard and muggle society. This can't be right, Harry shook his head. The statute of secrecy has protected both worlds for centuries. Uniting them would cause chaos. Maybe not unite completely, Ron suggested. Maybe just, better cooperation. Like what Kingsley's trying to do with his initiative. The prophecy is clear that separation wasn't natural, Hermione pointed out. Magic and mundane were never meant to be separate. And it warns that nature itself will force the issue if wizards keep resisting. The magical disturbances in Manchester, Harry realized. Eleanor's equipment detecting magic. What if those aren't isolated incidents? What if the barriers are already breaking down? A sudden noise from the corridor made them all turn. Harry quickly pocketed the prophecy sphere. Someone's coming, Ron whispered. We need to go. They slipped out of the repository, the wall solidifying behind them as they re-entered the time room. Just as they ducked behind a shelf, the main door opened. 2 figures entered, a tall, aristocratic man Harry recognized as Arcturus Blackwood, and beside him, an unspeakable in the division's characteristic hooded robes. You're certain Potter accessed the repository? Blackwood was asking. The wards recorded his magical signature less than an hour ago, the unspeakable confirmed. He must know about the Cassandra prophecy by now. Harry exchanged alarmed glances with Ron and Hermione. How did Blackwood know they were here? This complicates matters, Blackwood said coldly. If Potter aligns himself with Shacklebolt on this Muggle cooperation nonsense, the vote could swing against us. Especially with that ridiculous scar of his glowing again, people will see it as a sign. The Pure Order reports that the ritual was successful, Minister-elect, the unspeakable said. The Speaker's stone activated and transferred its power as intended. Phase 1 is complete. Harry felt his blood run cold. Minister-elect? And Blackwood was connected to the Pure Order. Excellent. Then we proceed with Phase 2, Blackwood replied. Accelerate the containment preparations. If Potter chooses to become the bridge as prophecy suggests, we must be ready to contain the fallout. And if he opposes our interpretation? Blackwood's voice hardened. Then we'll need to remove him from the equation. The wizarding world has survived by remaining separate from Muggles. I won't let Potter's hero complex endanger our way of life. The 2 men moved deeper into the time room, their voices fading. Harry signaled to Ron and Hermione, and they carefully made their way to the exit, slipping out of the department undetected. Only when they reached the ministry atrium did they speak. "Blackwood's working with the pure order," Hermione whispered furiously. "And that unspeakable called him minister-elect, like his victory is already assured. He's planning a political coup," Harry realized. "Using the prophecy and these magical disturbances to undermine Kingsley. And he knows you have the prophecy now," Ron added grimly. "We need to warn Kingsley immediately." "The Wisengamot session," Hermione said. "That's where Kingsley is right now, along with most of our allies. We need to get there before Blackwood returns." They hurried to the Wisengamot chambers, only to find the massive doors sealed with magical wards. "Emergency session protocols," Hermione explained, examining the wards. "No entry or exit until voting concludes." "When will that be?" Harry asked. "Could be hours," Ron said. "Blackwood's faction is known for filibustering." Harry touched his scar, which continued to emit its soft glow. "We can't wait. Not with what we know now." "The wards are tied to Wisengamot membership," Hermione noted. "None of us are members, so we can't break through." "But I know someone who is," Harry said, suddenly remembering an unlikely ally. "Someone who owes me a life debt." 20 minutes later, they stood outside Malfoy Manor, the imposing gates swinging open at their approach. Draco Malfoy had been notified of their arrival and, surprisingly, agreed to meet them immediately. The manor had changed since Harry's last unwilling visit during the war. Gone were the dark artifacts and gloomy decor, replaced by a more modern aesthetic that, while still luxurious, lacked the oppressive atmosphere of Lucius Malfoy's day. Draco greeted them in a study lined with books. He'd aged well, his pointed features having matured into a distinguished sharpness. His platinum hair was still worn short, and his robes were impeccably tailored. "Potter," he nodded curtly. "Weasley. Granger. This must be important for the three of you to show up at my door at 9 in the evening." "It is," Harry confirmed. "We need your help to access the emergency Wisengamot session." Draco's eyebrows rose slightly. "Straight to the point as always. May I ask why?" "Arcturus Blackwood is working with a group called the Pure Order," Harry explained. "They're exploiting magical disturbances and an ancient prophecy to stage what amounts to a political coup against Kingsley." "Serious accusations," Draco remarked, studying Harry carefully. "Though I admit Blackwood's sudden call for an emergency vote was suspicious." "And your scar is glowing. Interesting fashion choice, Potter." Harry ignored the jab. "The prophecy concerns me, and the future relationship between the magical and Muggle worlds." Draco's expression sharpened with interest. "Go on." Harry hesitated, but they needed Draco's help. He explained about the Speaker's Stone, the Pure Order ritual, and the Cassandra prophecy, finishing with what they'd overheard between Blackwood and the Unspeakable. When he finished, Draco was silent for a long moment. "You realize what you're proposing, challenging the statute of secrecy, goes against centuries of wizarding tradition," he finally said. "I'm not proposing anything yet," Harry clarified. "I'm trying to understand what's happening and prevent Blackwood from using it for his own agenda." "And what makes you think I wouldn't support Blackwood's agenda?" Draco asked coolly. "My family has always advocated for separation from Muggles." "Because you're not your father," Harry said simply. "And because whatever Blackwood's planning, it involves deception and manipulation rather than open debate." Draco's lips twitched in what might have been a suppressed smile. "Fair point. The Malfoy name has been rehabilitated somewhat since the war. I've worked hard for that. Aligning with another potential dark uprising would be counterproductive." "So you'll help us?" Hermione pressed. "I'll get you into the Wisengamot chamber," Draco agreed. "But what you do after that is your responsibility. The Malfoy family remains officially neutral in this conflict until I determine which way the political winds are blowing." "Political as ever," Ron muttered. "Practical," Draco corrected. A quality your family might consider adopting, Weasley. Before Ron could retort, Harry cut in. Thank you, Draco. We appreciate your help. Draco nodded and stood. We should go now. The vote could happen any moment. The Wizengamot chambers were in an uproar when they entered behind Draco, who used his family's seat access to bypass the wards. Nearly 100 witches and wizards in plum-colored robes filled the tiered seating, with Kingsley standing at the center, looking weary but resolute as he addressed the assembly. Cannot allow fear to dictate our policy, he was saying. The Muggle Cooperation Initiative merely establishes protocols for working with Muggle authorities on threats that endanger both our communities. And in doing so, risks exposing our world, countered Arcturus Blackwood, a commanding figure with silver-streaked dark hair and aristocratic features. Minister Shacklebolt would have us reveal ourselves to Muggles bit by bit, until the statute of secrecy exists in name only. Murmurs of agreement rose from many members. Harry could see the session was not going well for Kingsley. Furthermore, Blackwood continued, these recent magical disturbances affecting Muggle technology prove the danger of closer integration. Our magics are fundamentally incompatible with their world. Harry stepped forward, his glowing scar immediately drawing all eyes. Those disturbances were artificially created by your allies, Blackwood. A hush fell over the chamber, followed by startled whispers as people recognized Harry. Mr. Potter, Kingsley acknowledged, looking both surprised and relieved. You have evidence of this claim? I do, Harry stated clearly. The magical disturbances in Manchester and at Hogwarts were caused by the activation of an ancient artifact called the Speaker's Stone of Morrigan, orchestrated by a group calling themselves the Pure Order, a group that Blackwood himself is working with. Blackwood's face flushed with anger. This is slander, Potter. Security, remove this man. This is a closed session. Mr. Potter is here as my guest, Draco Malfoy announced smoothly, stepping forward. As a member of the Wizengamot, I invoke the right to present relevant testimony during deliberation. The chamber erupted in confused debate. Kingsley raised his hands for silence. These are serious allegations, Mr. Potter, he said when quiet returned. What evidence do you have? Harry pulled out the prophecy sphere. This is a prophecy recorded by Cassandra Trelawney in 1702. It specifically concerns the relationship between the magical and Muggle worlds and predicts that they must be reunited. Reunited? Several voices echoed in confusion. The prophecy states that the separation of our worlds was unnatural and that the barriers are now breaking down, Harry explained. Less than an hour ago, I overheard Blackwood discussing this prophecy with an unspeakable, confirming his connection to the Pure Order and referring to Phase 2 of their plan. This is absurd. Blackwood thundered. Potter has clearly been affected by contact with dangerous magic, look at his scar. He's delusional. Let us hear the prophecy, suggested Augusta Longbottom, Neville's grandmother and a respected elder of the Wizengamot. If such a prophecy exists, the entire body should evaluate it. Murmurs of agreement followed her reasonable suggestion. Kingsley nodded to Harry, who placed the sphere on the chamber floor. With a tap of his wand, the misty figures of Cassandra Trelawney and her listener appeared, reciting the prophecy for all to hear. When it concluded, the chamber remained silent for several long moments. The twice-chosen one, marked by lightning, someone finally whispered, staring at Harry's glowing scar. Blackwood recovered quickly. Even if this prophecy is genuine, Potter's interpretation is flawed. Unite what was sundered could mean many things. It could refer to uniting the wizarding world after our recent conflicts. The prophecy explicitly mentions magic and mundane, Hermione pointed out from beside Harry. And states they were never meant to be separate. And who might you be? Demanded an elderly wizard from the conservative faction. Hermione Granger, Department of Magical Law Enforcement, she replied confidently. I was present when Mr. Potter uncovered Blackwood's connection to the Pure Order. These are wild accusations without proof, Blackwood insisted. A prophecy means nothing without proper interpretation, and Potter has always had a flair for dramatic self-importance. Harry felt his temper rising but controlled it. I don't claim to know exactly what the prophecy means. But I know this, the magical disturbances are real, Muggle technology is increasingly able to detect magic, and burying our heads in the sand won't stop what's coming. What exactly are you proposing, Potter? Asked a witch from the moderate faction. I'm proposing we investigate these events thoroughly before voting on any initiative, Harry replied. The Pure Order orchestrated these disturbances for a reason. Before we react with either increased separation or integration, we should understand what's actually happening to the barriers between our worlds. This reasonable approach seemed to resonate with many members. Kingsley seized the moment. I move that we postpone the vote on the Muggle Cooperation Initiative pending a full investigation into these magical disturbances and the alleged activities of the Pure Order, he proposed. And that we form a special committee to study the implications of the Cassandra prophecy, with representatives from all factions of the Wizengamot. I second the motion, called Augusta Longbottom immediately. As do I, added Draco Malfoy, surprising many. Blackwood looked furious but controlled. Very well. I support a thorough investigation, which will prove my concerns justified and Potter's accusations groundless. The motion passed with a significant majority. As the session adjourned, members broke into excited discussion groups. Kingsley approached Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Well done, he said quietly. Though I suspect you bent quite a few rules getting that prophecy. More like shattered them completely, Ron admitted cheerfully. Kingsley smiled slightly. I'll ensure no disciplinary action follows. But Harry, that scar of yours. What exactly happened with this Speaker's Stone? It's a long story, Harry said. But the short version is that its magic has somehow merged with me. I think I'm meant to fulfill this prophecy somehow. The bridge between worlds, Kingsley mused, studying Harry's glowing scar. An appropriate role for the boy who lived. You've always stood between ordinary life and extraordinary destiny. Before Harry could respond, Blackwood approached with several allies. Enjoy your temporary victory, Potter, he said in a low voice. But interfering in matters beyond your understanding will have consequences. The wizarding world has survived for centuries through separation from Muggles. One glowing scar and a cryptic prophecy won't change that fundamental truth. The prophecy suggests the separation was a mistake from the beginning, Harry countered evenly. Prophecies can be interpreted many ways, Blackwood smiled coldly. And some can be prevented entirely. Remember that. As Blackwood walked away, Hermione frowned. That sounded like a threat. It was, Harry confirmed. But he's not wrong about one thing, prophecies aren't absolute. My choices still matter. What will you do now? Kingsley asked. Harry thought for a moment. I need to understand what happened to me with the Speaker's Stone. And I need to learn more about the original separation of our worlds. When and why did wizards first go into hiding? That's ancient history, Ron said. Pre-Hogwarts even. The Department of Mysteries might have records, Hermione suggested. Or Hogwarts restricted section. Actually, Kingsley said thoughtfully, there's someone else who might help. Someone who specializes in ancient magical history, particularly regarding the origins of the Statute of Secrecy. Who? Harry asked. Andromeda Greengrass. She's retired now, but she was once the foremost magical historian in Britain. Lives in a cottage near Godric's Hollow, coincidentally. Greengrass? Ron repeated. Any relation to Daphne and Astoria? Their great-aunt, I believe, Kingsley confirmed. Bit eccentric, but brilliant. If anyone knows about the original separation of magical and Muggle worlds, it's her. Then that's our next step, Harry decided. But first, we need to check on Eleanor and make sure she's safe. If Blackwood knows about the prophecy, he might target her too. As they prepared to leave, Harry noticed Draco lingering nearby, apparently waiting to speak with him. "Go ahead," Harry told Ron and Hermione. "I'll catch up." When they'd gone, Draco approached. "Potter, what you're potentially unleashing here, it's bigger than you realize." "I'm aware of the implications," Harry said. "Are you?" Draco asked skeptically. "My family records go back further than most. There are stories, passed down through generations, about why the magical world separated from Muggles. It wasn't just witch burnings and persecution." Harry's interest sharpened. "What was it then?" "I'm not entirely sure. The accounts are fragmentary and deliberately obscured. But they suggest a magical catastrophe occurred, something so dangerous that separating the worlds was seen as the only solution." "Do you have these records at the manor?" Harry asked. Draco nodded reluctantly. "Some. But they're in ancient runic and early wizarding Latin. Difficult to translate accurately. Would you be willing to share them?" Draco considered for a moment. "I helped you tonight because political stability serves my interests. But what you're considering, changing the fundamental relationship between wizards and Muggles, that's different. I need to know your intentions." "Honestly? I don't know yet," Harry admitted. "I just want to understand what's happening and make the right decision." "The right decision," Draco echoed with a hint of his old sneer. "Always the hero, Potter." "You could help, you know," Harry pointed out. "Your position in the Wisengamot, your family records, you have resources I don't. And why would I help unite our world with Muggles? My family has never advocated for that. Maybe because the prophecy suggests the barriers are breaking down regardless of what we do. If that's true, wouldn't a controlled integration be better than chaos?" Draco fell silent, considering this. "I'll review the records," he finally said. "If I find anything relevant, I'll contact you. That's all I can offer for now." "Thank you," Harry said sincerely. "That's more than I expected." As Draco walked away, Harry touched his still-glowing scar. The magic of the speaker's stone pulsed within him, a constant reminder of the prophecy and the role it suggested for him. The bridge between worlds. Whether he wanted it or not, destiny had found Harry Potter once again. When Harry returned to Grimmauld Place, he found the house in a state of controlled chaos. Eleanor's scientific equipment was spread across the dining room table, while Ginny, Neville, and Luna pored over ancient books from the Black Library. Arthur Weasley had arrived and was engaged in animated conversation with Eleanor about Muggle technology. "Harry." Ginny spotted him first. "What happened at the Ministry?" Harry quickly explained the confrontation in the Wisengamot, Blackwood's thinly veiled threat, and the postponement of the vote. "So you essentially accused a powerful politician of conspiracy in front of the entire Wisengamot," Ginny summarized. "Just another Tuesday for Harry Potter." "It's Thursday, actually," Luna pointed out helpfully. "How are things here?" Harry asked, smiling despite himself. "Fascinating," Eleanor said, looking up from her conversation with Arthur. "Your father-in-law has been explaining how magic interferes with electrical systems. It's given me several ideas about how to modify my equipment to function in magical environments. And I've been learning about quantum physics." Arthur exclaimed excitedly. "Did you know Muggles have particles that exist in two places at once? It's remarkably similar to certain principles of apparition theory." Hermione joined them, having helped Ron secure the house with additional protective enchantments. "We've also been researching the Speaker's Stone. Luna found references to it in one of the older Black family books." Luna nodded dreamily. "It was created by the Druidess Morrigan around 500 BCE, designed to record prophecies too dangerous to be spoken aloud. It was said to speak between worlds and bridge the gap between seen and unseen." "More bridge references," Harry noted. "What happened to it after Cassandra Trelawney had it?" "The book doesn't say," Luna replied. "But it mentions that the stone chooses its bearer, someone with the potential to fulfill the prophecies it contains. Harry touched his scar. And it chose me. Or at least, its magic did. I've been analyzing the energy readings from when the stone's power transferred to you, Eleanor said. It's unlike anything I've recorded before. The quantum signature suggests the magic didn't just enter you, it recognized something already present in you. What do you mean? Harry asked. Think of it like a lock and key, Eleanor explained. The stone's magic was the key, but the lock, the potential to be this bridge, was already inside you. Perhaps from your first encounter with powerful magic as a baby? Harry exchanged glances with Hermione and Ron. They all knew she was referring to his connection with Voldemort, though Eleanor didn't have the full context. That's plausible, Hermione admitted. Harry has always had a unique magical signature since Voldemort's curse rebounded. Speaking of unique magic, Ron interjected, your scar is glowing brighter, mate. Harry realized Ron was right, the light emanating from his lightning-shaped scar had intensified since they'd returned home. It responds to proximity to magical disturbances, Eleanor observed. My instruments show increased quantum fluctuations in this area over the past hour. Magical disturbances? Here. Harry looked alarmed. Nothing dangerous, Eleanor clarified. More like ripples. Similar to what we detected in Manchester, but at a much lower intensity. They're happening everywhere, Neville added, looking up from a map he'd been marking. McGonagall sent this, reports of minor magical anomalies across Britain. Muggle electronics malfunctioning near magical sites, magical creatures being spotted by Muggles, wards flickering. It's starting, Harry said quietly. What the prophecy warned about. The barriers between worlds are thinning. Then we need to understand why they were created in the first place, Hermione said firmly. Kingsley mentioned a historian, Andromeda Greengrass. Yes, near Godric's Hollow, Harry confirmed. We should visit her tomorrow. I'd like to come, Eleanor said. If these barriers between magical and non-magical worlds are physical in any sense, I might be able to measure them. Me too, Luna chimed in. Great Aunt Andromeda has an impressive collection of dirigible plum specimens. Very good for enhancing cognitive functions. Plans made, the group gradually dispersed for the night. Ron and Hermione departed for their home with promises to return in the morning. Neville and Luna took guest rooms, while Arthur reluctantly returned to the burrow after extracting a promise from Eleanor to explain quantum entanglement to him properly the next day. Harry found himself alone in the study with Ginny after everyone else had gone to bed. She sat beside him on the old leather sofa, leaning against his shoulder. So, she said softly. The bridge between worlds. Apparently, Harry sighed. Just when I thought I was done with prophecies and destinies. How do you feel about it? Harry considered the question carefully. Conflicted. Part of me thinks the statute of secrecy has protected both worlds for good reason. But another part. He paused, searching for words. Another part wonders if we've been hiding too long. If the separation has cost us something important. Like what? I don't know. Progress? Understanding? Think about it, Jin, wizards barely changed for centuries while Muggles went from swords to space travel. What might we have accomplished together? Ginny smiled slightly. You sound like Dad. Maybe your dad's been right all along, Harry suggested. Maybe the fascination with Muggles isn't just quirky, maybe it's recognizing something we've lost. And what about the magical catastrophe Draco mentioned? If that's true, there might be good reasons for the separation. Harry nodded. That's why we need to learn more before making any decisions. The prophecy says I have a choice, embrace this role as the bridge or reject it. Either way, I want it to be an informed choice. Ginny took his hand, her fingers intertwining with his. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. Though I have to say, life with Harry Potter is never boring. Sorry about that, he said with a wry smile. I did try the quiet life for a while. No, you didn't, she laughed, nudging him playfully. You became an Auror and chased dark wizards across Europe. That's Harry Potter's version of a quiet life. Fair point, he conceded, pulling her closer. At least this time I'm not facing a Dark Lord bent on immortality. No, just potentially reshaping the entire relationship between magical and Muggle societies. Much simpler. Harry laughed despite himself, grateful for Ginny's ability to lighten even the weightiest moments. As they sat together in comfortable silence, his thoughts turned to the journey ahead. Whatever this prophecy meant, whatever the Speaker's Stone's magic was doing to him, Harry knew one thing for certain: this time, he wasn't facing it alone. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Harry woke early, his scar's glow having dimmed to a faint shimmer overnight. He found Eleanor already in the kitchen, adjusting her equipment while Creature prepared breakfast with obvious disapproval at the Muggle devices cluttering his domain. "Any new readings?" Harry asked, pouring himself coffee. "Fluctuations continued throughout the night," Eleanor reported. "I've modified my sensors to filter out ambient magic, your house practically hums with it, to focus on the anomalous patterns. They're forming a distinct signature now." "What kind of signature?" "Almost like a heartbeat," she said, showing him a display with pulsing waves. Regular oscillations increasing in frequency. Before Harry could respond, an urgent knocking came from the front door. He went to answer it, wand ready just in case. To his surprise, Draco Malfoy stood on his doorstep, looking unusually disheveled. "Potter," he said without preamble. "We need to talk. Now." Harry led him inside, noting the dark circles under Draco's eyes. "You look like you haven't slept." "I haven't," Draco confirmed, placing an ancient leather-bound book on the kitchen table. "After our conversation, I went through the Malfoy archives. Found this buried in a hidden compartment. My ancestors apparently didn't want it easily discovered." The book was small but radiated old magic. Its cover bore no title, only an embossed symbol showing a circle bisected by a wavy line. "What is it?" Harry asked. "A first-hand account of the original Sundering," Draco said grimly. "Written by Armand Malfoy himself in 1102. "The original Sundering?" Eleanor asked, looking up from her equipment. "The first formal separation between magical and Muggle communities," Draco explained, glancing at Eleanor with mild surprise. "Long before the International Statute of Secrecy was established in 1689. Most wizards think the statute was the beginning of separation, but it was actually just the codification of practices that had begun centuries earlier." "What does it say?" Harry prompted. "It's complicated," Draco said, running a hand through his unusually messy hair. "And disturbing. According to this account, magic and non-magic existed in harmony for millennia. Magical people lived alongside non-magical people openly, sharing knowledge, intermarrying. So what changed?" Harry asked. "A magical experiment gone wrong," Draco said solemnly. "A group of powerful mages attempted to create a permanent bridge between our world and another realm, some kind of elemental plane of pure magic. They believed it would create an endless source of magical power." "Let me guess," Harry said. "It went badly." "Catastrophically," Draco confirmed. "The bridge they created was unstable. Instead of channeling magic safely, it began to tear the very fabric between worlds. Magical energy poured uncontrolled into our realm, causing massive disturbances. Ordinary people exposed to raw magical energy suffered terrible effects, some died, others developed unstable magical abilities that they couldn't control." Eleanor had stopped working on her equipment, listening intently. "Like a radiation leak, but with magical energy." "Exactly," Draco nodded. "The surviving mages realized the only way to contain the disaster was to create a mystical barrier, not just between our world and the elemental realm, but also between magic users and non-magic users. They essentially created two partially separated realities layered over each other." "The Sundering," Harry whispered. Yes. According to this account, the ritual required enormous sacrifice. Hundreds of the most powerful magic users gave their lives to establish the barrier, which would protect non-magical people from exposure to dangerous levels of raw magic. So the separation wasn't about protecting wizards from persecution, Hermione said, entering the kitchen in time to hear Draco's explanation. It was to protect Muggles from magical contamination. Initially, yes, Draco confirmed. The persecution came later, after memory of the true reason faded. As centuries passed, the original purpose of the sundering was forgotten by most. Only a few families, like mine, kept records, and even those became fragmented and obscured. Harry absorbed this revelation. And now the barriers are failing. That's the most disturbing part, Draco said, opening the book to its final pages. Armand Malfoy wrote that the sundering ritual was never meant to be permanent. The mages knew the barrier would eventually break down. They estimated it would last 10 centuries, perhaps 12 at most, before requiring renewal or dissolution. 10 centuries from 1102. Hermione calculated quickly. 2102 at the latest, Draco finished for her. But magical barriers don't fail all at once. They weaken gradually, with increasing breaches. Like the disturbances we're seeing now, Harry realized. Eleanor spoke up. If these barriers were created using sacrifice and enormous magical energy, their deterioration would release that energy back into both environments. That could explain the quantum fluctuations my instruments are detecting. Ron entered with Neville and Luna, quickly catching up on the conversation. So let me get this straight, Ron said after Draco summarized again. Wizards and Muggles used to live together, then some magical experiment went wrong, and wizards created a barrier to protect everyone. Now that barrier is naturally breaking down, and the prophecy says Harry is supposed to manage this process somehow. That appears to be the situation, Draco confirmed dryly. And this Pure Order group, what's their role? Neville asked. Based on what we overheard, Harry said, Blackwood and the Pure Order know the barriers are failing. They activated the Speaker's Stone deliberately, probably to trigger the prophecy and force the issue on their terms. But why? Ron wondered. If they're traditionalists who want separation, why accelerate something that ends separation? Control, Hermione suggested. If they know it's inevitable, they want to control how it happens. Blackwood mentioned containment preparations. Maybe they have a plan to renew the barriers instead of allowing integration. Which would require another massive sacrifice, Luna noted quietly. Magical barriers of that magnitude always do. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. We need to see Andromeda Greengrass immediately, Harry decided. If anyone can verify this information and fill in the gaps, it's her. I'm coming with you, Draco said unexpectedly. She's my distant relative through marriage, and she may be more forthcoming if I'm present. Harry nodded, surprised but appreciative. The more information we can gather, the better. As they prepared to leave for Godric's Hollow, Harry felt the magic from the Speaker's Stone pulsing more strongly within him. His role as the bridge was becoming clearer, though the path forward remained uncertain. One thing was sure, the choice before him wasn't simply about fulfilling a prophecy but potentially reshaping the very foundation of both magical and Muggle societies. The weight of this responsibility settled on his shoulders as they departed for the home of Andromeda Greengrass, seeking answers that had been hidden for nearly 1,000 years. Andromeda Greengrass's cottage stood on a hillside overlooking Godric's Hollow, its gardens wild with plants both magical and mundane growing together in apparent chaos that, upon closer inspection, revealed a complex and deliberate pattern. The historian herself matched her garden, white hair wild and untamed, clothing layered in seemingly random fashion, yet her sharp blue eyes revealed a brilliant mind behind the eccentric appearance. She greeted them at the door before they could knock. I've been expecting you, Mr. Potter, she said, her voice surprisingly strong for a woman Harry guessed to be in her 90s. When one scar begins glowing with ancient magic, visits typically follow. You know about my scar? Harry asked, surprised. News travels quickly in certain circles, she replied cryptically. And when it concerns the twice chosen one and the original sundering, it travels even faster. Her gaze moved to Draco. Young Malfoy. Your great-great-grandmother would be pleased to see you involved in this matter. She always said the Malfoys must remember their original purpose. Draco looked startled. You knew my great-great-grandmother? Certainly. I'm older than I look, Andromeda winked, then surveyed the rest of the group. Quite the delegation you've brought. Including a Muggle scientist. How delightful. Come in, all of you. We have much to discuss. The interior of the cottage was even more remarkable than its exterior, every wall lined with books and artifacts, many looking ancient and powerful. What space wasn't occupied by bookshelves held strange instruments, some whirring and clicking, others emitting soft lights or gentle humming. Eleanor moved immediately toward one device that resembled a brass orrery but with spheres that phased in and out of visibility. This is incredible, she breathed. It's measuring quantum probability states, isn't it? Indeed it is, Dr. Foster, Andromeda confirmed. Though wizards call it possibility mapping rather than quantum mechanics. Different terminology, same principles. You know who I am? Eleanor asked, surprised. As I said, news travels. Particularly when it concerns prophecies and barriers. Andromeda gestured them toward a circular room at the heart of the cottage. Please, sit. Tea will serve itself shortly. The room contained comfortable mismatched chairs arranged around a low table. As promised, a tea service floated in moments after they were seated, pouring perfectly prepared cups for each person. Now then, Andromeda said once they were settled. You've come about the Cassandra prophecy and the failing barriers between worlds. Yes, Harry confirmed. We've learned some information from a book in the Malfoy family archives about the original sundering, but there are still many gaps in our understanding. Not surprising, Andromeda nodded. The truth was deliberately obscured over the centuries. Those who created the sundering knew that if its purpose was widely understood, some would attempt to break it prematurely, while others would take extreme measures to preserve it beyond its natural lifespan. Both approaches would be disastrous. So what is the complete truth? Hermione asked. Andromeda sipped her tea thoughtfully. The sundering occurred in 1102, as young Malfoy's book indicates. But its origins stretch back further. For millennia before that, magical and non-magical humans lived together, with magic users serving as healers, advisors, protectors. Magic was understood as a natural, if rare, variation in human ability, like exceptional strength or intelligence. What changed? Harry prompted when she paused. Ambition, as is often the case, Andromeda sighed. A council of powerful mages became convinced they could enhance magical ability by creating a permanent connection to what they called the primal font, the source of all magic. They created an artifact called the Nexus Stone to serve as an anchor point between our world and the font. Like a dimensional portal? Eleanor asked, fascinated. Precisely, Andromeda nodded approvingly. For a short time, it worked. Magic flowed more freely, allowing feats previously thought impossible. But the boundary between dimensions began to destabilize. Magic leaked uncontrollably into our world. The magical contamination Draco's book mentioned, Harry said. Yes. Raw, unfiltered magic is dangerous to those not born with the ability to channel it. Muggles exposed to high concentrations suffered terrible effects, some died, others developed unstable magical abilities that eventually destroyed them. But wizards were immune? Ron asked. Not immune, adapted, Andromeda corrected. Born with natural mechanisms to channel magical energy safely. Even so, many wizards also suffered or died from overexposure. The situation was dire. So they created the barrier, Hermione said. A group of the wisest mages gathered to find a solution, Andromeda confirmed. They determined that the Nexus Stone couldn't be simply destroyed, its connection to the primal font was too strong. Instead, they created a double barrier, one between our world and the font to regulate magical flow, and another separating magical communities from non-magical ones to prevent contamination. At great sacrifice, Luna added quietly. The greatest, Andromeda agreed solemnly. Over 700 magic users gave their lives in the ritual, willingly surrendering their magic and life force to power the barriers. Among them were the ancestors of many prominent wizarding families, including the Malfoys, the Potters, and my own. Harry and Draco exchanged surprised glances. The barriers were never meant to be permanent, Andromeda continued. The mages knew that eventually, the natural order would reassert itself. They designed the sundering to last approximately 1,000 years, time for both communities to evolve separately before eventual reunification. And they created the Speaker's Stone as, what? A warning system? Harry asked. More than that, Andromeda said, her eyes fixing on Harry's glowing scar. They created it as a key. When the time approached for the barriers to dissolve, the stone would activate, seeking the bridge, a person with the unique magical signature needed to guide the reunification process. Me, Harry said, the weight of this destiny settling on him. Indeed. Though I suspect they didn't anticipate the bridge would also be marked by defeating a Dark Lord, Andromeda smiled slightly. The universe has a flair for dramatic convergence. So what happens now? Hermione asked. How exactly is Harry supposed to guide this reunification? That's where matters become less clear, Andromeda admitted. The original mages left instructions, but much has been lost or corrupted over the centuries. What I do know is that the process requires three elements: the bridge, who carries the Speaker's Stone's power, the Nexus locations, where the original barriers were anchored, and the reconciliation ritual, which guides the barrier's dissolution. And I'm guessing the Pure Order knows this too, Harry said grimly. They know parts of it, Andromeda confirmed. Arcturus Blackwood's family were once custodians of certain knowledge regarding the sundering. But they interpreted their duty as preventing reunification rather than facilitating it. That explains his opposition to anything involving Muggle cooperation, Hermione realized. Indeed. Blackwood believes the barriers must be reinforced, not dissolved, Andromeda said. And reinforcement would require another sacrifice, Luna finished quietly. Yes. And a substantial one, given how much the barriers have already weakened, Andromeda confirmed. That's monstrous, Ron exclaimed. Sacrificing people to keep Muggles and wizards separate. From his perspective, he's preventing catastrophe, Andromeda said, not defending but explaining. He truly believes uncontrolled exposure to magic would destroy Muggle society and expose wizards to new persecution. Is he wrong? Draco asked bluntly. Would reunification be safe? Andromeda considered the question seriously. If done properly, with preparation and care, yes. The world has changed since the original sundering. Muggles have developed scientific understanding that would help them contextualize magic. And magical folk have established ethical and legal frameworks to prevent abuse of power. But if done improperly? Harry pressed. Chaos, she said simply. Fear, conflict, potential disaster for both communities. So I really do need to be this bridge, Harry said quietly. To ensure the process happens safely. That appears to be your destiny, Mr. Potter, Andromeda agreed. Though as always with prophecies, you have a choice. Harry thought of the prophecy's words, if he embraces this fate, new unity shall blossom. If he rejects the call, both worlds face oblivion. Not much of a choice, he observed dryly. There are always choices, Andromeda corrected gently. Even within the framework of accepting your role. How you approach it, whom you trust, what compromises you make, these remain yours to determine. What about the Nexus locations you mentioned? Hermione asked. Where are they? There were 7 originally, positioned at sites of natural magical convergence across Britain, Andromeda explained. Stonehenge is one. The standing stones in the Forbidden Forest another. The others include Glastonbury Tor, Anglesey, the Giant's Causeway, Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, and Avebury Circle. And the reconciliation ritual? Harry asked. That I don't have, Andromeda admitted. Its exact specifications were closely guarded. I believe it was divided into 7 parts, each hidden at one of the Nexus locations. So I need to visit each location to retrieve the ritual components, Harry surmised. Yes, but there's a complication, Andromeda said. The components are hidden within what wizards call boundary pockets, spaces that exist between our world and the primal font. Entering them requires someone who can bridge both realms. The bridge, Harry nodded in understanding. Precisely. The Speaker's Stone's magic inside you should enable you to access these pockets. But be warned, they contain not only ritual components but guardians and tests designed to ensure only the true bridge can retrieve them. Tests, Ron groaned. Why is it always tests? Because power without wisdom is dangerous, Andromeda said simply. The original mages wanted to ensure the bridge would approach reunification with proper consideration. And we need to hurry, Eleanor spoke up, checking her instruments. The quantum fluctuations are increasing exponentially. According to my calculations, the barriers could begin catastrophic failure within weeks, possibly days. She's right, Andromeda confirmed, glancing at her own strange devices. The process has accelerated since the Speaker's Stone activated. You must retrieve the ritual components quickly. What about Blackwood and the Pure Order? Hermione asked. They'll try to stop us. Undoubtedly, Andromeda agreed. And they may have already accessed some of the Nexus locations themselves. The Pure Order has been preparing for this moment for generations. Harry stood, decision made. Then we start immediately. Stonehenge first, it's the most accessible. I'll accompany you, Andromeda offered, surprising them. My knowledge may prove useful, and I've studied the Stonehenge Nexus extensively. I'm coming too, Eleanor said firmly. My equipment can track the barrier fluctuations, which might help locate the boundary pocket. We're all coming, Hermione stated, with nods from Ron, Luna, and Neville. Draco hesitated, then sighed. I suppose I'm committed now. The Malfoy archives might contain information about the Guardians at each location. I'll bring what I can find. Harry looked around at the group, friends old and new, even a former rival, all united in this unexpected mission. The weight of responsibility remained, but sharing it made it more bearable. Thank you, he said simply. All of you. As they prepared to depart for Stonehenge, Harry caught his reflection in one of Andromeda's strange instruments. His scar glowed with a steady blue light, no longer painful as it had been with Voldemort, but a reminder of this new destiny. The bridge between worlds. Whether he had chosen this path or it had chosen him, Harry was determined to see it through, to prevent both the chaos of uncontrolled barrier collapse and the horror of Blackwood's planned sacrifice. The Wizarding world and the Muggle world had been separated long enough. Perhaps it was indeed time for them to remember their shared history and forge a new future together. With that thought firmly in mind, Harry led his unlikely coalition from Andromeda's cottage toward the first step in fulfilling a prophecy 3 centuries in the making. Stonehenge stood majestic against the afternoon sky, its ancient stones testament to humanity's enduring connection to the mysterious forces of nature. The tourist buses had departed, and the site was closed to visitors due to unexpected archaeological work, a cover arranged by Kingsley Shacklebolt himself after Harry's urgent message. A small contingent of Aurors patrolled the perimeter, keeping Muggles at a distance while Harry and his group approached the stone circle. Eleanor's equipment beeped steadily, the frequency increasing as they neared the center. The quantum fluctuations are strongest here, she reported, studying her scanner. Particularly around the altar stone. Harry could feel it too, a resonance with the magic inside him, pulling him toward the center of the circle. His scar glowed more intensely with each step. The boundary pocket should be accessible from the center point, Andromeda explained, leaning slightly on a staff that looked as ancient as she was. Harry, you'll need to use the speaker's power to open it. How exactly? Harry asked. Trust your instincts, she advised. The magic inside you knows what to do. Harry stood at Stonehenge's center, feeling somewhat foolish despite the solemnity of the moment. Trust my instincts wasn't exactly specific instruction. He closed his eyes, focusing on the strange magic that had entered him when the speaker's stone shattered. It pulsed in time with his heartbeat, a steady rhythm that seemed to echo in the stones around him. Without conscious decision, Harry found himself speaking words in a language he didn't recognize, ancient and powerful, resonating with the very earth beneath his feet. The air before him shimmered and split, revealing what appeared to be a doorway filled with swirling blue light. Through it, he glimpsed what seemed to be the same stone circle, but under a strange sky with two moons. The boundary pocket, Andromeda breathed. You've opened it. I have to go through, Harry said, knowing it with certainty. We'll come with you, Ron said immediately, stepping forward with Hermione. Harry shook his head. I don't think that's possible. The prophecy specifically mentions the bridge walking between worlds. He's right, Andromeda confirmed. Only the bridge can enter. Others would be rejected, violently. How long will you be in there? Hermione asked worriedly. Time may flow differently in the pocket, Andromeda warned. Minutes here could be hours there, or vice versa. Wonderful, Harry muttered. Look, if I'm not back in an hour, contact Kingsley. He needs to know everything we've learned, regardless of whether I succeed. Don't talk like that, Ginny said firmly, stepping forward to kiss him quickly. You'll succeed. You always do. Harry smiled at her confidence. Keep everyone safe out here. I suspect the Pure Order might have been watching Andromeda's cottage. With a last look at his friends, Harry stepped through the shimmering doorway. The sensation was unlike anything he'd experienced, not the compression of apparition or the spinning of fleur travel, but a sideways shift, as if he'd stepped between heartbeats. He emerged into a version of Stonehenge that was both familiar and alien. The stones were the same shape but seemed newer, their surfaces covered in glowing runes. The sky above held two moons, one familiar, one smaller and blue, while the landscape beyond the circle was shrouded in mist. Welcome, Bridge Walker, said a voice behind him. Harry spun to find a figure in ancient robes standing by the altar stone, a tall man with a staff and long white beard that reminded him painfully of Dumbledore, though this man's features were sharper, his eyes a startling violet. Who are you? Harry asked, hand instinctively reaching for his wand. I am Merton, guardian of the First Nexus, the figure replied. Or at least, an echo of him, preserved to guide the bridge when the time came. Merton, Harry repeated. You mean Merlin? The figure inclined his head. That name has been used for me, yes, though it was not my own. Harry's mind reeled. He was speaking to an echo of Merlin himself. You were part of creating the original Sundering. I led the ritual, Merton confirmed. A necessary evil to prevent greater catastrophe. But one we always intended to be temporary. And now the barriers are failing, Harry said. As was foretold, Merton agreed. You have come for the first component of the reconciliation ritual. Yes, Harry confirmed. But Andromeda Greengrass mentioned tests. Indeed. Merton gestured, and 3 pedestals rose from the ground, each bearing a different object, a silver chalice, a golden key, and a crystal wand. You must choose correctly. One contains the ritual component. One contains nothing. One contains destruction. Harry approached the pedestals cautiously. How do I choose? You are the bridge, Merton said simply. You must understand what that truly means to make the correct choice. Harry examined each object carefully. The chalice was ornate, decorated with scenes of wizards and muggles living together in harmony. The key was simpler but radiated magical power. The wand sparkled with inner light, beautiful and alluring. What does being the bridge mean? Harry thought aloud. Connecting two worlds, standing between magic and mundane. As he contemplated, the magic from the speaker's stone pulsed within him. He remembered the fragments of prophecy, to unite what was sundered or witness both fall. Unity. That was key. Not just bridging as in connecting two separate things, but truly uniting them into a harmonious whole. Harry reached for the chalice, the only object depicting actual unity between wizards and muggles. As his fingers touched it, the chalice glowed blue, the same color as his scar. You have chosen wisely, Murden said, approval in his voice. The bridge understands that his role is not merely to connect but to unite, to create harmony from division. The other pedestals sank back into the ground. Harry held the chalice, which had transformed into a small silver disc inscribed with intricate patterns. This is the foundation sigil, Murden explained. The first of 7 components needed for the reconciliation ritual. Keep it safe. What exactly will this ritual do? Harry asked. How does it reunite the world safely? The ritual creates a controlled dissolution of the barriers, Murden explained. Rather than a sudden collapse that would flood both realms with chaotic energy, it establishes new, permeable boundaries that allow gradual integration. Magic will flow between worlds in sustainable measures, allowing Muggles time to adapt without harm. And my role as the bridge? You will serve as the conduit and regulator of this process, Murden said. The speaker's stone's power within you enables you to modulate the flow of magic between realms. Harry absorbed this information, understanding better what was at stake. What about Blackwood and the Pure Order? They want to reinforce the barriers instead. Murden's expression darkened. A dangerous folly. The barriers have weakened too far for simple reinforcement. Their ritual would require tremendous sacrifice, hundreds, perhaps thousands of lives, and even then, it would merely postpone the inevitable for perhaps another century while causing great suffering. How do I stop them? Complete the reconciliation ritual before they can implement their alternative, Murden said simply. The barriers respond to the bridge's magic. Once you begin the process, they cannot override it without destroying you first. That's comforting, Harry said dryly. You faced death before, Bridge Walker, Murden observed. This task requires similar courage but offers greater reward, not merely the defeat of one dark wizard but the healing of an ancient wound in reality itself. Harry nodded, pocketing the foundation sigil. I should return to my friends. There are 6 more Nexus sites to visit. Before you go, Murden said, a warning, the Pure Order knows of your quest now. They will try to reach the remaining sites before you. And Blackwood, he is more dangerous than you realize. How so? He has found artifacts from the original catastrophe, items contaminated with raw magic from the primal font. They grant power but corrupt the wielder. Great, Harry muttered. Magical contamination. Just what we need. Trust in the speaker's power within you, Murden advised. It was created specifically to counter such corruption. And remember, being the bridge means more than standing between worlds. It means understanding both, valuing both, and finding strength in their differences as well as their commonalities. With those cryptic words, Murden raised his staff. The air shimmered, and a doorway back to the real world appeared. The next component awaits at Glastonbury Tor, Murden said as Harry moved toward the exit. Hurry, Bridge Walker. The barriers weaken with each passing hour. Harry stepped through the doorway and returned to his friends, the foundation sigil heavy in his pocket and Murden's warning echoing in his mind. 1 down, 6 to go, with the Pure Order close behind and time running short. The race to reunite the worlds had truly begun. Chapter 3, Worlds Collide. Harry stood at the base of Glastonbury Tor, the strange hill rising before him like an ancient sentinel. The foundation sigil from Stonehenge hummed in his pocket, resonating with his scar and the magic of the speaker's stone inside him. After returning from the boundary pocket, they barely had time to regroup before reports came in of pure order activity near Glastonbury. "They're moving faster than we expected," Ron said, checking his enchanted aura map. "Kingsley stationed a team around the perimeter, but they've already had to deal with 3 groups of cultists trying to breach the site." Eleanor's equipment beeped urgently as she adjusted dials. "The quantum fluctuations are even stronger here than at Stonehenge. The barrier between worlds is particularly thin at this location." "The Tor has always been a place of transition," Luna noted dreamily, gazing up at the medieval tower crowning the hill. "The veil between worlds parts more easily here, even for those without magic." Harry felt it too, a strange vibration in his magical core, stronger than at Stonehenge. "We need to move quickly. If Blackwood's people access the boundary pocket before us..." "They can't," Hermione reminded him. "Only the bridge can enter, remember? But they might set traps or try to ambush you when you return." Draco approached from where he'd been conferring with 2 cloaked figures, contacts from old pureblood families who'd reluctantly agreed to help after Draco's persuasion. "My sources confirm Blackwood's planning something big," he reported. "The Wisingamott's been called for an emergency session tomorrow. The agenda's classified, but rumors suggest he's proposing extraordinary measures to address the magical crisis." "The reinforcement ritual," Harry guessed grimly. "We need all 7 components before then." Ginny squeezed his hand. "You got the first one easily enough. Maybe the others will be just as straightforward." "Nothing in my life is ever straightforward," Harry replied with a wry smile, but he appreciated her optimism. They began climbing the steep path to the top of the Tor, Eleanor's equipment growing more animated with each step. Near the summit, Harry's scar flared brightly, and he stumbled as a wave of dizziness washed over him. "Harry!" Ginny caught his arm, steadying him. "I'm fine," he assured her, though the world seemed to shimmer strangely around him. "The barrier's really thin here. I can almost see through it." Indeed, as he looked at the ancient tower, it seemed to flicker between realities, sometimes the solid stone structure of the present, sometimes a gleaming edifice of crystal and light that must exist in the other realm. When they reached the top, the wind whipped around them fiercely, though Harry noticed it affected only their group. Nearby tourists seemed to experience just a gentle breeze. "The boundary pocket is reacting to your presence," Andromeda explained, her white hair flying wildly. "It senses the speaker's power within you." Harry moved toward the tower, following the pull of the magic inside him. As at Stonehenge, words in an ancient language rose unbidden to his lips. The air before the tower entrance rippled and split, revealing a doorway filled with swirling green light. "Same as before," Harry said, turning to his friends. "I go alone." "If I'm not back in an hour, we know," Hermione cut in. "Contact Kingsley, share everything we've learned." "But you'll be back." "Be careful," Ginny added, kissing him quickly. Harry stepped through the doorway and into another reality. This version of Glastonbury Tor featured a complete tower, not the partial ruin of the real world. The sky above shimmered with aurora-like lights in green and purple, and the landscape below showed a version of Britain where nature dominated, forests stretching as far as he could see, with only occasional clearings for settlements. Inside the tower, a spiral staircase led upward. Harry followed it to a circular chamber at the top, where a woman in ancient druidic robes awaited. Her eyes glowed green, and her dark hair moved as if underwater. "Greetings, Bridge Walker," she said in a voice that echoed strangely. "I am Morgana, guardian of the second nexus." "Morgana? As in Morgan Le Fay?" Harry asked, surprised. "That name has been given to me by history, though not always kindly," she replied with a hint of bitterness. "I was among those who created the Sundering, sacrificing much to save both worlds from catastrophe." "I've come for the second component of the reconciliation ritual," Harry said. "Yes, the time approaches for the worlds to remember their unity," Morgana agreed. "But first, you must demonstrate your understanding of what that unity truly means." She waved her hand, and the circular room transformed into what appeared to be a Muggle laboratory. Scientific equipment lined the walls, while magical artifacts sat on central tables, two worlds represented in one space. The bridge must understand both realms he connects, Morgana explained. Before you are three problems, one magical, one Muggle, and one that requires both approaches to solve. Complete them, and the second component will be yours. Harry approached the first station, where a complex magical lock secured a small chest. Unlike normal wizard locks that required specific spells, this one responded to magical intent and understanding of magical principles. Drawing on his aura training, Harry carefully mapped the lock's enchantments, identifying the magical signatures that would disable its protections. The second station presented a Muggle physics problem involving electrical circuits and mathematical equations. Harry hesitated, his knowledge of Muggle science limited to what he'd learned in primary school before Hogwarts. Think, he muttered to himself. What would Eleanor do? He recalled their conversations about quantum physics and Eleanor's explanations of basic scientific principles. Slowly, methodically, he worked through the problem, applying logical reasoning rather than magical intuition. The final station contained a glass cube with a small golden object floating in its center, neither fully material nor fully magical, existing in a state between worlds. The challenge was to retrieve it without breaking the cube or using direct magic or physical tools. Harry studied the problem, remembering Morgana's words, one that requires both approaches. The solution, he realized, wasn't to choose between magical and Muggle methods but to harmonize them. Using a small amount of wandless magic, Harry created a weak magnetic field, a concept he understood from Muggle science, and simultaneously cast a modified summoning charm that worked within the field rather than against it. The combination created a resonance that allowed the object to phase through the glass without breaking it. As he completed the final challenge, all three stations glowed green. Well done, Bridge Walker, Morgana said approvingly. You understand that unity is not about one world dominating or replacing the other, but about finding harmony between different approaches. The golden object from the third challenge transformed into a small emerald disc similar to the Foundation sigil but with different patterns. This is the Harmony Sigil, Morgana explained. It teaches that different systems can work together without losing their unique characteristics. Harry pocketed the second component. 5 more to go. Where should we head next? The Giant's Causeway in Ireland holds the third component, Morgana replied. But beware, the Pure Order has already attempted to breach that nexus. Though they cannot enter the boundary pocket, they have placed powerful wards to prevent your access. They're trying to block me from completing the reconciliation ritual, Harry realized. Yes. And time grows short. The barriers weaken exponentially, each breach makes the next more likely. Morgana's expression grew grave. Already, magical anomalies are occurring across Britain. Soon, they will be impossible to contain or explain away. How long do we have? 3 days at most before catastrophic failure begins, she answered. When that happens, raw magic will flood into the Muggle world while technology will increasingly penetrate magical spaces. Both worlds will suffer as their boundaries dissolve chaotically. Then I need to hurry, Harry said, turning toward the exit that had appeared at the chamber's edge. One more thing, Bridge Walker, Morgana called after him. The leader of those who oppose you, he carries a fragment of the Nexus Stone, the artifact that caused the original catastrophe. It grants him power but poisons his mind. He believes he protects the wizarding world, but he serves only chaos. Blackwood, Harry muttered. His ancestor was among those who created the Sundering, Morgana confirmed. But unlike most who understood it as a temporary measure, the Blackwood line came to see it as the natural order, a perspective twisted by generations of fear and pride. With this troubling information, Harry stepped through the portal and back into the real world, where his friends waited anxiously. Harry! Ginny rushed forward. You were only gone for 15 minutes this time. Time flows differently in the boundary pockets, Harry explained, showing them the Harmony Sigil. 2 down, 5 to go. But we need to move fast. The Giant's Causeway is next, and the Pure Order is already trying to block it. We've had reports of strange magical occurrences while you were gone, Hermione said, her expression worried. Owls delivering mail to Muggles by mistake, portraits in wizarding homes becoming visible to Muggle visitors, cases of accidental magic being witnessed by dozens of bystanders. The barriers are breaking down faster than expected, Eleanor confirmed, showing Harry her instruments. The quantum fluctuations have increased by 17% just in the last hour. We need transportation to Northern Ireland immediately, Harry decided. Ron, can you contact the Irish Ministry for clearance? We don't have time for international magical travel bureaucracy. On it, Ron said, already sending his Patronus with the message. As they prepared to leave, a silver lynx Patronus bounded toward them, Kingsley's messenger. Harry, it spoke in the minister's deep voice. Situation deteriorating. Blackwood has called for my suspension pending investigation into mishandling the magical crisis. Vote scheduled for tomorrow morning. Evidence suggests Pure Order planning major operation tonight. Exercise extreme caution. Ministry divided on loyalties. Damn, Harry muttered as the Patronus faded. Blackwood's moving faster than we expected politically too. He's trying to remove Kingsley before we can complete the ritual, Hermione realized. With him gone, the ministry would likely fall under Blackwood's control. We split up, Harry decided after a moment's thought. Ron, Hermione, go back to London. Use your positions to rally support for Kingsley and delay the vote if possible. Draco, your Wisengamot connections might help too. And leave you to collect the remaining components alone. Hermione looked skeptical. Not alone, Harry corrected. Ginny, Luna, Neville, and Eleanor will come with me. Andromeda can coordinate from her cottage, using her connections to gather intelligence on Pure Order movements. After some debate, they agreed to the plan. Ron arranged emergency port keys with the Irish ministry while Hermione prepared to return to London with Draco to organize political resistance to Blackwood's coup attempt. Before they separated, Hermione hugged Harry tightly. Just like old times, isn't it? Racing against time to prevent disaster. Except this time we're not teenagers, and we actually have some idea what we're doing, Harry replied with a small smile. Speak for yourself, Ron quipped. I'm still winging it. With a final round of well wishes and safety reminders, the group split. Harry, Ginny, Luna, Neville, and Eleanor took the port key to the Giant's Causeway, while the others headed back to London to confront the political dimension of the crisis. The Giant's Causeway looked like something from another world even without magical interference, thousands of hexagonal basalt columns stretching into the sea, formed by ancient volcanic activity but appearing almost artificially constructed. The Muggles believe this was created by a giant, Luna commented as they picked their way across the unusual formation. They're not entirely wrong. It was shaped by Finn MacCumhale, who had giant blood, though he used magic rather than physical strength to arrange the stones. Eleanor's equipment began behaving erratically as they approached the center of the formation. The interference is stronger here, she reported. It's almost as if, wait. She adjusted some settings and looked up with alarm. These readings suggest active magical barriers, recently erected and powerful. The Pure Order's blockade, Harry guessed, his scar pulsing painfully as they moved forward. Morgana warned me they'd try to prevent access to the boundary pocket. They soon encountered the blockade, an invisible barrier that revealed itself as rippling energy when Harry tried to proceed further. His hand met solid resistance despite there being nothing visibly in the way. Complex ward work, Neville observed, casting detection spells. Multiple layers, anchored to the basalt itself. Can we break through? Ginny asked. Not without significant power, Neville replied. These are battle-grade wards, similar to what Hogwarts uses during emergencies. Harry pressed his palm against the invisible barrier, feeling the speaker's magic react inside him. Maybe I don't need to break it. Maybe I can, pass through it. Focusing on the magic within, Harry closed his eyes and imagined himself as truly being the bridge, existing between worlds, belonging fully to neither but connecting both. The sensation was strange, as if his body became temporarily less substantial. He pushed against the barrier again, and this time, his hand passed through like moving through heavy water. "It's working," he said, surprised at his success. "I think I can cross, but I'm not sure about the rest of you." "Try to create a passage," Luna suggested serenely. "The bridge doesn't just cross, it creates a way for others." Harry nodded and concentrated harder, visualizing not just passing through himself but creating an opening for his friends. The barrier rippled around his hand, and slowly, a gap formed, just large enough for a person to pass through. "Quickly," he urged, straining with effort. "I don't know how long I can hold it." One by one, they slipped through the opening. As soon as Eleanor, the last one, passed through, Harry released his hold and the barrier sealed itself again. "That was brilliant!" Ginny exclaimed. "And exhausting," Harry added, catching his breath. "Let's find the nexus point before whoever created these wards realizes we've breached them." They continued across the causeway until reaching a formation where the hexagonal columns formed a rough circle. Harry's scar glowed brilliantly here, and the air seemed to shimmer with potential. As before, ancient words came to him unbidden, and a doorway appeared, this one filled with swirling orange light. "Same rules," Harry reminded them. "If I'm not back in an hour, we know the drill," Ginny interrupted, giving him a quick kiss. "Just hurry back." Harry stepped through the doorway into the boundary pocket version of the Giant's Causeway. Here, the basalt columns glowed with inner fire, and the sea beyond was not water but what appeared to be liquid magic, shimmering and iridescent under an amber sky. A figure waited for him, seated cross-legged on a central column, a red-haired man with intricate tattoos covering his visible skin and golden eyes that burned like flames. "Welcome, Bridge Walker," the figure greeted him. "I am Finn, guardian of the third nexus." "Let me guess," Harry said. "Another test before I get the third component?" Finn smiled, revealing slightly pointed teeth. "You learn quickly. The bridge must not only understand both worlds but also be willing to fight for both equally." With a wave of his hand, Finn conjured two visions before Harry. On the left, a magical village under attack by what appeared to be Muggle military forces with advanced technology. On the right, a Muggle city suffering from magical catastrophe, strange energies warping buildings and affecting civilians. "Choose which to save," Finn commanded. Harry frowned. "This is a false choice. As the bridge, I must protect both." "You cannot be in two places at once," Finn countered. "Choose, or both will fall." Harry studied the scenarios more carefully, noticing details he'd missed at first glance. In the magical village, some villagers were actually using technology alongside magic to defend themselves. In the Muggle city, certain individuals appeared to be channeling the chaotic magic, directing it away from the most vulnerable. These aren't separate crises, Harry realized. They're the same crisis viewed from different perspectives. And the solution isn't choosing between them but recognizing that both communities are already beginning to work together. Finn's expression remained impassive. "And your choice?" "I choose integration," Harry replied firmly. "Rather than dividing my efforts, I would bring the strengths of each community to help the other." Magical shields could protect Muggle emergency workers while Muggle communication systems could coordinate magical response teams. The fiery guardian studied him for a long moment before nodding. "You see clearly, Bridge Walker. The challenges ahead cannot be solved by either world alone. Only together can both survive." The twin visions dissolved, and a small orange disk appeared in Finn's palm, the third component. "This is the Unity Sigil," he explained, handing it to Harry. "It represents the strength that comes from combined purpose rather than divided effort." Harry pocketed it alongside the others. 3 down, 4 to go. "Where next?" "Anglesey awaits," Finn replied. "But be warned, the pure order grows desperate. They have learned they cannot prevent your access to the boundary pockets, so they now plan to strike at what you value most. My friends? Harry asked, alarm rising. Those you seek to protect, Finn clarified. The innocent caught between worlds as the barriers fail. Even now, they prepare to create a controlled magical catastrophe, one they can blame on integration efforts. Where? When? London. Tonight. They believe that fear will drive both communities back to separation better than any argument. Finn's golden eyes narrowed. And their leader emerges from the shadows at last. Who is it? Harry asked urgently. Blackwood? Blackwood is but a pawn, though he believes himself a king, Finn said dismissively. The true leader of the Pure Order bears a name you know well, though the face will be unfamiliar. Blood of your enemy, risen to continue what was left unfinished. A chill ran down Harry's spine. Blood of my enemy? You don't mean. Lestrange, Finn confirmed. Lysander Lestrange, son of Rabastan, nephew of Bellatrix. Hidden away during the last war, raised in secret to believe that the separation of worlds is sacred law rather than temporary necessity. Harry's mind raced. He'd had no idea Rabastan Lestrange had a son. The Death Eater had died in Azkaban shortly after Voldemort's defeat, apparently taking the secret of his offspring to the grave. He wields fragments of the Nexus Stone, Finn continued. Artifacts his family preserved from the original catastrophe. They grant tremendous power but corrupt mind and magic alike. He plans to use them tonight to create a breach that will kill hundreds, magical and Muggle alike. I need to stop him, Harry said urgently. The ritual components can wait. No, Bridge Walker, Finn said firmly. Without the completed ritual, you cannot counter what Lestrange plans. The reconciliation ritual isn't merely symbolic, it gives you control over the barriers. Without it, you might save some lives tonight but lose many more in the days to come. Harry felt torn between immediate action and the larger mission. There must be something I can do. Warn your allies in London, Finn advised. Let them prepare while you continue your quest. The fastest path to saving everyone is completing the ritual before Lestrange acts. Reluctantly, Harry nodded. Then open the way back. I need to alert my friends immediately. As he stepped back through the portal to the real world, Harry's mind was already formulating plans. The revelation of Lysander Lestrange as the Pure Order's leader put everything in a different light. This wasn't merely political maneuvering, it was the continuation of Voldemort's legacy of hatred and separation, wrapped in new ideology but springing from the same toxic roots. Lysander Lestrange? Ginny repeated incredulously after Harry relayed what he'd learned. I've never heard of him. Nor have I, Neville said, his expression darkening at the Lestrange name. But if he's Rabastan's son, he would have been raised in secret. The Lestranges were fanatically devoted to Voldemort's cause. We need to warn Ron and Hermione immediately, Harry said, sending his stag Patronus with an urgent message detailing Lestrange's identity and plans for London. Eleanor, who had been monitoring her equipment, looked up with alarm. Whatever's happening, it's accelerating the barrier deterioration. Look. She showed them a graph with a sharply rising line. At this rate, we'll see major failures within 24 hours, not 3 days. We need to keep moving, Harry decided. Anglesey next, then Arthur's Seat, then Avebury. If we push through without breaks, we might collect all the components by morning. What about sleep? Ginny asked practically. We'll sleep when the world's not ending, Harry replied with a grim smile that reminded her of darker times. They apparat to Anglesey, the island off the northwest coast of Wales that had once been the heart of Druidic magic in Britain. Here, Harry found the fourth boundary pocket guarded by a stern druidess who tested his courage rather than his understanding, forcing him to face manifestations of his deepest fears about failing in his mission as the bridge. The test left him shaken but successful, the violet balance sigil added to his growing collection. With no time to recover, they pressed on to Edinburgh and Arthur's Seat, the ancient volcanic hill overlooking Scotland's capital. There, in a boundary pocket where the hill became a towering mountain of crystal, a guardian resembling a Scottish warrior tested Harry's commitment to both worlds by forcing him to defend a position against attackers using only Muggle methods, then only magical ones, before finally allowing him to combine approaches. The Blue Wisdom Sigil became the fifth component. Throughout their journey, Patronus messages arrived from London with alarming updates. The ministry was in chaos, with officials taking sides between Kingsley and Blackwood. The Wisengamot had been locked in emergency session for hours. Most worrying, magical disturbances were occurring with increasing frequency across Britain, the night bus appearing visible to Muggles in Manchester, a dragon briefly spotted over Bristol, Gringotts' magical defences fluctuating and revealing glimpses of the bank's true interior to passing Muggles. By the time they reached Avebury Circle in the pre-dawn hours, all of them were exhausted. The massive prehistoric stone circle, larger than Stonehenge, hummed with ancient magic amplified by the weakening barriers. "The fluctuations are off the scale," Eleanor reported, her voice hoarse with fatigue. "We're seeing quantum entanglement between magical and non-magical systems now. The barriers are beginning to fail systemically." Harry's scar glowed so brightly it illuminated their path as they entered the stone circle. Finding the nexus point was easy, his connection to the speaker's stone pulled him directly to it. Opening the boundary pocket required more effort this time, as if the walls between worlds were becoming unstable in both directions. When he emerged with the Indigo Knowledge Sigil after facing a test of wisdom and foresight, the real world had changed noticeably. The air shimmered with visible magical energy, and in the distance, they could see strange aurora-like lights in the sky. "It's beautiful," Luna observed dreamily. "And dangerous," Neville added, casting detection spells. "That's raw magic bleeding through from the primal font. Muggles exposed to it could suffer serious effects." Harry's pocket burned hot suddenly, all 6 sigils reacting to each other and to the changing magical environment. "We need to get to the final location, the Forbidden Forest Standing Stones." Ginny's Patronus message from Ron arrived as they prepared to apparate. The horse galloped around them, speaking with Ron's urgent voice, "London situation critical. Lestrange revealed himself at Ministry. Blackwood under Imperius. Pure Order seized Department of Mysteries. They're preparing some kind of ritual using artifacts from the original catastrophe. Magical anomalies everywhere, statute of secrecy effectively collapsing. Muggle authorities engaging. Need you back ASAP. We have to go to London," Ginny insisted. "Not yet," Harry countered, though the decision tore at him. "Without the final component, we can't perform the reconciliation ritual. Without that, we can't stabilize the barriers." Harry's right, Eleanor supported him, checking her instruments. "These readings indicate systemic failure. Localized catastrophes like what's happening in London are just the beginning. If the barriers collapse completely, the casualties will be global." With heavy hearts, they apparat to Hogsmeade and made their way quickly toward Hogwarts. The school itself was in lockdown, magical shields visible around the castle, protecting the students inside from the increasingly unstable magical environment. McGonagall met them at the gates, her normally stern expression etched with worry. "Potter, the forest is becoming increasingly dangerous. The centaurs report the standing stones are emitting powerful magical pulses." "That's where we need to go," Harry explained. "The final component for the ritual is there." "Then you shall have escort," the headmistress decided, signaling to Hagrid who waited nearby with Fong and a crossbow. "Like old times, Harry," the half-giant greeted him with forced cheerfulness. "Back into the forest for another adventure?" The journey through the Forbidden Forest was harrowing. The magical disturbances had affected the creatures within, some fleeing in panic, others becoming more aggressive. Twice they had to detour around areas where the very air had become magically toxic, with strange effects visible on surrounding plants and smaller creatures. When they finally reached the standing stones where Harry had first encountered the Pure Order days earlier, the scene was alarming. The ancient megaliths pulsed with blue light in a rhythmic pattern, and the air between them occasionally rippled, showing glimpses of another reality, the boundary pocket bleeding into the physical world without being properly opened. "The barriers are critically weak here," Eleanor said, her voice barely audible over the strange humming emanating from the stones. "Your scar is responding to it, Harry." Indeed, Harry's lightning scar now glowed so intensely it was painful to look at directly. The 6 sigils in his pocket vibrated against each other, creating a harmonic tone that seemed to stabilize the fluctuating energy somewhat. "I need to open the final boundary pocket before it tears open on its own," Harry realized. A controlled opening might prevent further damage. Standing at the center of the stone circle, Harry spoke the now familiar words that activated the doorway between worlds. This time, the process felt different, harder to control, the magic more wild and resistant. When the doorway finally appeared, it pulsed erratically, the red light within swirling chaotically. "This doesn't look stable," Ginny observed worriedly. "Harry, be careful." "I will," he promised, squeezing her hand before stepping through into what he hoped would be the final trial. The boundary pocket version of the standing stones existed in what appeared to be perpetual sunset, the sky blood-red and filled with strange constellations. The stones themselves were much larger here, towering like skyscrapers around a central platform where 7 figures waited, the guardians of all 7 nexus points gathered together. "The bridge arrives at the final threshold," they spoke in unison, their voices overlapping in eerie harmony. "As the worlds bleed together, the choice approaches." "I've come for the final component," Harry stated. "The barriers are failing in my world. I need to complete the reconciliation ritual." "We know," they responded. "But the final component cannot be given, it must be created from the essence of the bridge himself." Murden stepped forward from the group. "The culmination sigil requires sacrifice, not of life, but of certainty. The bridge must surrender the comfort of belonging fully to either world and accept the burden of existing between them forever." Harry frowned. "What does that mean exactly?" "The speaker's stone's magic within you is incomplete," Morgana explained, joining Murden. "To become the true bridge, not temporarily but permanently, you must allow it to fully merge with your being. You will remain human, remain a wizard, but also become something more, a conduit between realms, sensitive to both forever." "And if I refuse?" Harry asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Then the barriers collapse chaotically," Finn replied grimly. "Millions die as raw magic floods your world while technology disrupts ours. Eventually, a new balance would form, but the cost would be unimaginable." Harry considered what they were asking. He had never sought special status or power, had in fact spent much of his life trying to be just Harry. But circumstances had consistently thrust greater responsibility upon him. "What exactly would change for me?" he asked. "You would perceive both worlds simultaneously," Murden explained. "Feel the flow of magic between them. Your natural lifespan would extend significantly. Your magic would work differently, more attuned to the fundamental forces rather than traditional spellcasting. You would become the living embodiment of the connection between worlds," Morgana added. "When imbalances occur, you would feel them and be able to address them." "A lifelong responsibility," Harry observed quietly. "Yes," all 7 guardians confirmed. Harry thought of his family, Ginny, his children, his friends. How would this change affect them? Would he still be able to live a relatively normal life, or would this new status consume his identity as the boy who lived once had? As if reading his thoughts, Murden spoke again, "You would still be yourself, Harry Potter. Husband, father, friend. The change is an addition to who you are, not a replacement. Your unique experiences have prepared you for this role, you have always lived between worlds in some sense." It was true, Harry realized. Raised by Muggles but belonging to the wizarding world. Famous yet ordinary. Dead yet returned to life. His entire existence had been defined by thresholds and contradictions. "What do I need to do?" he asked, decision made. The guardians formed a circle around him. "Open yourself to the speaker's power fully," Merton instructed. Let it transform from something separate within you to an integrated part of your being. Harry closed his eyes, focusing on the magic that had entered him when the speaker's stone shattered. Until now, he had contained it, used it when needed but kept it distinct from his own magical core. Now he consciously lowered those internal barriers, allowing the ancient power to flow throughout his being. The sensation was overwhelming, like fire and ice simultaneously rushing through his veins. He felt his perception expanding, layer upon layer of reality becoming visible to his mind's eye. The boundaries between worlds appeared as shimmering veils, some tattered and torn, others still relatively intact. Magic flowed through these gaps like water through a damaged dam, pooling in the Muggle world where it didn't belong, creating the anomalies and disturbances they'd been witnessing. After what felt like both an eternity and an instant, the process completed. Harry opened his eyes to find the Guardians watching him with expressions of satisfaction. In his palm rested the seventh component, a red disc that pulsed in time with his heartbeat. The culmination sigil, Merton confirmed. With it, you can perform the reconciliation ritual and begin healing the damage to the barriers. Not eliminating them entirely? Harry asked, noting the specific wording. The original sundering was necessary but flawed, Morgana explained. Complete elimination of all barriers would be as dangerous now as it was then. What is needed is controlled permeability, boundaries that allow safe interaction while preventing dangerous overexposure. Like a semi-permeable membrane, Harry said, borrowing terminology he'd heard from Eleanor. Precisely, Merton nodded. The ritual will establish new, healthier boundaries that allow integration without chaos. I need to return to my world immediately, Harry said. London is under attack by the Pure Order. Go, the Guardians said in unison. But remember, Lysander Lestrange wields fragments of the Nexus Stone. Only the completed reconciliation ritual can counter their power. The doorway appeared, and Harry stepped through it back into the Forbidden Forest. To his surprise, barely minutes had passed in the real world, though his experience had felt much longer. Harry. Ginny rushed to him. Your appearance. What? He asked, then caught his reflection in Eleanor's equipment. His scar now glowed with a steady white light rather than blue, and his eyes held the same luminescence behind their normal green. The speaker's magic has fully integrated with you, Eleanor observed, her scientific curiosity evident despite the crisis. My instruments show your quantum signature has fundamentally altered. Harry nodded, showing them the final red sigil. I have what we need. Now we need to get to London immediately. Lestrange is making his move. Another Patronus arrived, Hermione's otter, speaking urgently, situation critical. Pure Order has activated some kind of device at the Thames barrier. Massive magical surge affecting entire city. Ministry in chaos. Muggle authorities responding. International statute emergency declared. Harry, we need you now. The Thames barrier, Harry repeated. Of course, it's a literal barrier between elements, a perfect symbolic location for Lestrange's ritual. How do we get there? Neville asked. Apparition might be dangerous with the magical field so unstable. I can get us there, Harry said with newfound confidence. The speaker's magic within him provided new awareness of the magical currents flowing through Britain. Everyone hold on to me. When they did, Harry focused on the Thames barrier, the massive flood control structure spanning the river east of central London. Instead of the compressed sensation of apparition, they experienced something gentler, like stepping through a fold in space. One moment they were in the Forbidden Forest, the next, they stood on the south bank of the Thames facing the iconic steel barriers. The scene before them was chaos incarnate. The normally silvery barriers glowed with unnatural purple light. The air above them rippled with visible magical disturbance, like heat waves but more substantial. Most alarmingly, what appeared to be tears in reality had opened at multiple points, jagged holes showing glimpses of the raw magical dimension beyond. Muggle emergency vehicles lined the riverbanks, their lights flashing while confused responders tried to make sense of what they were seeing. Ministry officials in hastily transfigured Muggle clothing attempted to establish some kind of perimeter, but their efforts were clearly failing. The magical disruption was too widespread to contain. In the center of it all, standing on a platform atop the central barrier control tower, was a dark-robed figure Harry didn't recognize but instinctively knew must be Lysander Lestrange. Even from a distance, Harry could sense the corrupted magical energy surrounding him, the fragments of the Nexus stone glowing with sickly purple light in a circle around the platform. "There's Ron and Hermione," Ginny pointed to a group of wizards coordinating near the main approach to the barrier. They hurried over, drawing startled looks from both magical and Muggle personnel at Harry's glowing appearance. "Harry!" Hermione exclaimed when she saw them. "Thank goodness. It's worse than we thought. Lestrange has activated some kind of reverse ritual. Instead of stabilizing the barriers, he's deliberately tearing them open in a controlled pattern." "To what end?" Harry asked, though he suspected the answer. "Fear," Ron answered grimly. "Mass exposure to dangerous levels of magic. He's broadcasting some kind of manifesto to both magical and Muggle authorities, claiming this is what happens when the worlds mix, and that only complete separation can prevent worse disasters. He's creating the very catastrophe he claims to prevent," Harry realized. "Where's Kingsley? Where's Blackwood?" "Kingsley's coordinating with the Muggle Prime Minister," Hermione explained. "Trying to prevent military escalation. Blackwood was under the Imperius curse, he's in St. Mungo's now. Turns out Lestrange was controlling him for months. We need to get to Lestrange and stop the ritual," Harry said, examining the scene strategically. "I have all 7 components for the reconciliation ritual. If I can perform it near the center of his disruption, it should counteract what he's doing." "Easier said than done," Ron pointed out. "He's got pure order cultists creating a defensive perimeter. And those reality tiers are spreading. 3 Aurors got too close and were pulled in. No sign of them since." Harry assessed the situation with his enhanced perception. The tiers in reality were indeed spreading, but not randomly. They followed a pattern, creating a specific geometric formation across the Thames barrier structure. At the center, Lestrange's ritual was approaching some kind of crescendo, the fragments of the Nexus stone pulsing more rapidly. "We need a distraction," Harry decided. "Something to draw away his defenders so I can get close enough to perform the counter-ritual." "Leave that to us," Neville said confidently. "Luna and I can create a convincing attack from the north side." "I can help coordinate the Ministry forces," Ron added. "Hit them from multiple angles simultaneously." "I'll go with Harry," Ginny stated in a tone that brooked no argument. "And me," Eleanor added unexpectedly. "My equipment might help identify weaknesses in his magical field." Harry nodded, grateful for their support. "Everyone clear on the plan?" Neville and Luna create a diversion with Ron coordinating Ministry forces. Ginny, Eleanor, and I will use the confusion to reach Lestrange. Hermione, I'll work with the Muggle authorities, she finished for him. Try to prevent panic and casualties among civilians. I have contacts in their government from my work on the Muggle Cooperation Initiative. With the plan established, they moved to their positions. Harry took a moment to arrange the 7 sigils in a specific pattern based on intuitive knowledge flowing from the speaker's magic. When properly aligned, they locked together, forming a single disc with 7 distinct sections, the completed key to the reconciliation ritual. "Ready?" he asked Ginny and Eleanor. Both women nodded, determination evident in their expressions. "Then let's end this." The diversion worked better than expected. Neville and Luna, drawing on their experience leading Dumbledore's army during the darkest days at Hogwarts, coordinated a brilliant feint that drew nearly half of Lestrange's forces to the north side of the barrier. Simultaneously, Ron led Ministry wizards in multiple smaller engagements, stretching the Pure Order's defenses thin. Harry, Ginny, and Eleanor approached from the water side, using a small Muggle maintenance boat Eleanor had somehow convinced authorities to provide. Harry's enhanced senses allowed him to navigate between the expanding reality tiers, feeling their pull and adjusting course accordingly. The quantum fluctuations are forming a specific pattern, Eleanor observed, studying her instruments. It's almost like he's creating a controlled version of the original catastrophe. He's trying to demonstrate why the worlds were separated, Harry realized. Creating just enough chaos to terrify both sides into supporting renewed isolation. They reached the base of the central control tower undetected. Above them, Lestrange's ritual had entered what appeared to be its final stage, the purple glow intensifying as the Nexus stone fragments rose into the air, forming a rotating circle above the platform. "We need to climb," Harry said, eyeing the maintenance ladder running up the side of the tower. "I'll cover you," Ginny promised, wand ready. They had climbed halfway when they were spotted. Two Pure Order cultists on brooms swooped toward them, firing curses that Ginny deflected with well-placed shield charms. Harry continued climbing one-handed, the other clutching the combined sigil disc that now pulsed with rainbow light. Eleanor struggled with the climb, hampered by her essential equipment. When a spell nearly struck her, Harry reached down with his free hand, channeling the speaker's magic to create a protective field around her. "Keep going," he shouted. "We're almost there." When they reached the platform, they found themselves face to face with Lysander Lestrange. He was younger than Harry had expected, perhaps 30, with aristocratic features that recalled Bellatrix but with Rabaston's coloring. His eyes glowed purple from exposure to the Nexus stone fragments, and veins of the same color traced patterns beneath his skin. "Potter," he sneered, his voice carrying despite the magical maelstrom surrounding them. "The so-called bridge. How fitting that you arrived to witness the renewal of the proper order." "This isn't order, Lestrange," Harry replied, stepping forward while Ginny and Eleanor spread out to flank him. "You're creating chaos to justify your own twisted ideology." "I'm demonstrating truth," Lestrange shouted. "The worlds cannot mix without destruction. My ancestors understood this when they created the Sundering. Your misguided interference threatens everything." "Your ancestors helped create the Sundering as a temporary measure," Harry countered. "They knew the barriers would eventually need to come down in a controlled way." "Lies." Lestrange's face contorted with rage. "The separation is sacred. The natural order. Look around you," Harry gestured to the chaos below, Muggle emergency workers increasingly coordinating with Ministry wizards to evacuate civilians from areas affected by magical disturbances. Even now, faced with crisis, both communities are working together. That's the natural order, cooperation, not separation. Sentimentality, Lestrange dismissed. It changes nothing. My ritual approaches completion. The barriers will be reinforced through the power of the Nexus stones, and the worlds will remain properly divided for another 1,000 years. At what cost? Harry demanded. The original Sundering required hundreds of willing sacrifices. Your version would kill thousands of unwilling victims. Necessary casualties, Lestrange said coldly. A small price for preserving our way of life. While they spoke, Harry sensed Ginny moving into position behind Lestrange. Eleanor had set up her equipment and was quietly analyzing the spinning Nexus fragments above them. There's another way, Harry said, holding up the combined sigil. The reconciliation ritual, designed by the original mages to safely transform the barriers, not through sacrifice but through balance. Lestrange's eyes widened at the sight of the 7-part disc. The sigils of Sundering, he breathed. You actually found them all. Impressive, Potter, but too late. With a sudden gesture, Lestrange sent a wave of corrupted magic toward Harry. Instead of dodging, Harry channeled the speaker's power, creating a white barrier that absorbed the purple energy. Your magic is contaminated, Harry observed. The Nexus fragments are poisoning you, Lestrange. They're tools of balance, not meant to be used for extremism. Spare me your concern, Lestrange spat. I've spent my life preparing for this moment, to complete what my family began, what your kind interrupted when you destroyed the Dark Lord. Voldemort had nothing to do with this, Harry said. He was just a power-hungry murderer hiding behind ideology. Just like you. Fury twisted Lestrange's features. I am nothing like that half-blood pretender. My cause is pure, the proper separation of worlds. While Lestrange ranted, Eleanor caught Harry's eye and subtly indicated her readings. Harry understood immediately. The ritual had created a pattern, and patterns could be disrupted if you understood their structure. Now! Harry shouted. Ginny cast simultaneously from behind Lestrange, not an attack but a precisely calibrated hover charm that momentarily disrupted the rotation of the Nexus fragments. In that instant of imbalance, Harry thrust the combined sigil into the air at the center of the pattern and began the reconciliation ritual. Ancient words flowed from him, not memorized but channeled through the speaker's magic. The combined sigil rose and expanded, creating a circular pattern of multicolored light that intersected with Lestrange's purple energy field. Where they met, the chaotic energy began to stabilize. No! Lestrange screamed, sending blasts of corrupted magic at Harry. Ginny deflected what she could while Harry maintained his focus on the ritual, his entire being now a conduit for the ancient magic designed to heal the barriers rather than reinforce their separation. The sigil disk rotated faster, expanding further until it encompassed the entire Thames barrier. The reality tiers began to close, their edges knitting together as the reconciliation ritual established new patterns of energy flow. Lestrange, desperate now, lunged toward Harry physically, a twisted dagger raised. Eleanor, showing unexpected courage, threw herself into his path, sending both of them tumbling across the platform. The Muggle scientist grappled with the wizard, her scientific equipment tangling in his robes and disrupting his movements. Harry, finish it! Ginny shouted, rushing to help Eleanor. The ritual reached its climax. The 7 sigils separated again, each flying to one of the 7 Nexus locations across Britain, carrying the harmonizing energy with them. At Stonehenge, Glastonbury Tor, the Giant's Causeway, Anglesey, Arthur's Seat, Avebury Circle, and the Forbidden Forest, powerful surges of white light erupted into the sky, connecting in a geometric pattern visible across the country. Harry felt the barriers transforming, not disappearing entirely but becoming selectively permeable, allowing safe levels of interaction while preventing the dangerous flooding of raw magic from the primal font. The pattern established by the original mages reasserted itself, but in evolved form, adapted to the modern realities of both worlds. Lestrange, seeing his plans collapsing, broke free from Eleanor and made a final desperate lunge for the Nexus fragments. If I can't save our world, I'll take you with me, Potter. He grabbed the fragments bare-handed, their corrupted energy flowing directly into him. His body contorted as uncontrolled magic transformed him, his features elongating and shifting as he became a conduit for the very forces he had sought to control. Harry! Ginny called in warning as Lestrange, now barely recognizable as human, hurled himself toward Harry with inhuman speed. Harry didn't flinch. As Lestrange reached him, he caught the transformed wizard with hands glowing white with the speaker's power. Enough, Lysander, he said quietly. This ends now. Drawing on his connection to the new barrier system, Harry channeled purifying energy into Lestrange's corrupted form. The purple veins beneath his skin receded as the contamination from the Nexus fragments was neutralized. Lestrange screamed, not in pain but in existential despair as his twisted worldview was stripped away by direct contact with the balanced forces he had misunderstood. When Harry released him, Lestrange collapsed to the platform, human once more but forever changed. The Nexus fragments, purified of corruption, gently floated down to rest beside him, no longer purple but clear crystal, their true nature restored. Around them, the magical chaos subsided. The reality tiers closed completely. The unnatural purple glow faded from the Thames barrier, which resumed its normal silvery appearance. Below, wizards and muggles alike looked up in wonder as the geometric pattern of white light connecting the 7 Nexus sites briefly illuminated the sky before fading gently away. Is it over? Ginny asked, helping Eleanor to her feet. Harry nodded, suddenly exhausted despite the power flowing through him. The reconciliation ritual is complete. The barriers are transformed. Not eliminated. Eleanor asked, ever the scientist. No, Harry explained, understanding flowing from his connection to the new system. Modified to allow safe interaction while preventing dangerous exposure. Like a regulated membrane, Eleanor finished, smiling despite a cut on her forehead from the struggle with Lestrange. Permitting beneficial exchange while blocking harmful elements. Aurors reached the platform, securing the unconscious Lestrange and looking to Harry for guidance. Below, Ron and Hermione were coordinating the combined Wizard-Muggle response to the aftermath, while Neville and Luna helped tend to the injured. What happens now? Ginny asked quietly, taking Harry's hand. He looked out over London, his enhanced perception showing him both the magical and Muggle aspects of the city simultaneously, no longer separated but beginning to blend in controlled, harmonious ways. Now we build the bridge, not just me, but all of us together. The ritual created the foundation, but the actual integration will take time and effort. And the statute of secrecy? Will need to evolve, Harry said. Not end completely, but transform into something more flexible. Kingsley's been pushing in that direction already with his initiatives. As if summoned by his name, the Minister of Magic appeared on the platform, having been transported by emergency portkey. His normally calm demeanor showed signs of strain, but his eyes held hope as he took in the changing situation. Potter, he greeted Harry, taking in his transformed appearance with interest. I should have known you'd be at the center of this. The Prime Minister is demanding explanations I'm not sure I can provide. Tell him the truth, Harry suggested. Or at least, the beginning of it. That our worlds have been separate too long, and that natural forces are bringing them into closer alignment. That we can work together to make this transition beneficial rather than catastrophic. Kingsley considered this a diplomatic approach. You've grown wiser since your impulsive youth. Harry smiled tiredly. I've had good teachers. And now, apparently, I have a new role to fulfill. The bridge, Kingsley nodded. The changes in you are evident. What does this mean practically? I'm still figuring that out, Harry admitted. But I'll be able to help manage the integration process, sense problems before they become crises, facilitate understanding between communities. We'll need that in the coming days, Kingsley said seriously. This event was too public, too widespread to be contained by conventional means. The International Confederation is in emergency session. Some delegates are calling for drastic measures to preserve secrecy at any cost. That path is closed now, Harry said with quiet certainty. The barriers have been transformed irreversibly. We can guide the process or fight it, but integration will happen either way. Kingsley studied him for a long moment before nodding decisively. Then we guide it. Starting now. The weeks that followed brought rapid, sometimes disorienting changes to both magical and Muggle societies. What journalists dubbed the Thames Incident became the catalyst for carefully managed disclosure, not a sudden revelation of all magical secrets, but the beginning of a gradual integration process. Kingsley, with Harry's support, established the first Harmony Zones, designated areas where magical and Muggle communities could interact openly under carefully controlled conditions. The first such zone, fittingly, surrounded the Thames Barrier itself, where the dramatic events had been witnessed by hundreds of Muggles. Eleanor Foster became the scientific liaison between worlds, helping translate magical concepts into scientific frameworks that Muggles could understand. Her pioneering work on quantum magical theory earned her both acclaim and controversy but provided a crucial bridge between wizard and Muggle intellectual traditions. The Pure Order collapsed without Lestrange's leadership. Most followers, learning they had been manipulated by corrupted magic, renounced the organization. Lysander himself, purged of the Nexus Fragment's influence, became a study subject for unspeakables researching the effects of magical contamination, his mind intact but his magical abilities permanently altered. International reaction varied widely. Some magical governments followed Britain's lead, establishing their own controlled integration programs. Others resisted, attempting to maintain stricter separation. But as Harry had predicted, the transformed barriers made complete isolation increasingly difficult to maintain. For Harry personally, the changes were profound but not overwhelming. His enhanced perception became a normal part of his existence, the ability to see both magical and Muggle aspects of reality simultaneously, to sense imbalances in the flow of energy between worlds, to facilitate understanding where confusion might otherwise reign. He returned to Auror work, but with a modified role focusing on cases involving the intersection of magical and Muggle concerns. His visible transformation, the subtly glowing scar and luminescent eyes, made complete anonymity impossible, but most Muggles assumed these were simply unusual genetic traits rather than magical markers. 3 months after the Thames incident, Harry stood with Ginny on the hill overlooking Godric's Hollow where Andromeda Greengrass's cottage stood. The elderly historian had become a valued advisor to the integration process, her knowledge of the original Sundering providing crucial context for current events. Still adjusting to the new normal? Ginny asked, slipping her arm through his as they watched the sunset. Getting there, Harry replied with a small smile. The constant awareness of both worlds can be exhausting, but I'm learning to filter it better. The kids are proud of you, she said. James has been telling everyone at school his dad is literally magical history in the making. Harry laughed. Let's hope he's studying actual magical history too. Lily wants to know if being the bridge means you can help her get Muggle internet at Hogwarts. Already working on it, Harry admitted. McGonagall's reluctantly agreed to a trial program. Hermione's designed magical shielding to prevent interference with the school's enchantments. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching as lights came on in the village below, a place where wizards and Muggles had lived side by side for centuries, separated by enchantments now gently thinning under the new barrier system. Do you ever regret it? Ginny asked suddenly. Accepting this role? Becoming the bridge permanently? Harry considered the question carefully. No, he said finally. It feels right, somehow. Like everything that came before was preparing me for this. Growing up Muggle but belonging to the magical world, always standing between different realities. The twice chosen one, Ginny quoted from the prophecy. First to defeat Voldemort, then to unite the worlds. I still don't like prophecies, Harry said wryly. But at least this one's about building something rather than destroying a Dark Lord. From Andromeda's cottage, they heard voices, Ron and Hermione arriving with Eleanor for their weekly strategy meeting on integration progress. Luna's distinctive laugh floated on the evening air, probably reacting to one of Neville's dry observations about the magical plants adapting to the changing energy patterns. We should join them, Ginny said. Hermione mentioned the Prime Minister has finally agreed to that joint educational initiative you proposed. Harry nodded, taking one more moment to appreciate the view. The village where his parents had lived and died, where his own story had begun, and where now a new chapter in Wizard-Muggle relations was unfolding. He could see both the magical and non-magical elements simultaneously, the enchanted cottages alongside ordinary homes, protective spells interweaving with mundane security systems, two worlds beginning to remember their ancient unity. The bridge between worlds, he murmured, the weight of the title feeling less burdensome and more like a hard-won honor with each passing day. Ginny squeezed his hand. Come on, Bridge. Your friends are waiting. Together they walked toward the cottage, toward the future they were building, not just for themselves or their children, but for both worlds they now served to connect. The path ahead would hold challenges, resistance, and occasional setbacks, but also discovery, growth, and unprecedented cooperation. For the first time in a millennium, the ancient wound in reality was beginning to heal. And Harry Potter, the boy who had once just wanted to be normal, found himself exactly where he needed to be, at the threshold between worlds, helping both find their way toward a shared destiny neither could achieve alone. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.